Hi, friends. You know that one guy seems like a total nerd, so you gotta beat him up, but he's actually ripped and he kinda kicked your ass? Yeah, of course not. I know that we're all nerds here and we aren't beating anyone up, but hypothetically, just imagine that. Well, that would basically be the Damocles Crusade. The Damocles Crusade was the first major battle the Imperium had with the Tau, and vice versa. The Tau and the Imperials had clashed in the past, both when the Mechanicus first discovered their planet, and a few times when Tau explorer fleets went into Imperial airspace and were almost immediately
Hi,
blasted.
Banana.
But the
Give me a
Damocles
second. I'm
Crusade
just
was on a much
adjusting
larger
this.
scale than these previous encounters and was the first proper
There it is,
battle.
bottom.
Before the battle had even begun, the filthy Tau were
that's not it.
already trading
I go
with
this way.
Imperials in the fringe worlds by the Damocles Gulf and, gulp, being nice to them. For years, the Tau integrated themselves with the human colonies and converted the Imperiums to the greater good. Which, trading with Xenos, being nice to Xenos, and fighting for good instead of the Emperor was of course problematic to the staunchly xenophobic Imperium.
Oh, so you like trading so much, Blue Man? How about we
Ah.
trade hands then?
Yeah, you do get a shot.
So, noticing the lack of ties and hearing word of the potential trading traders, the Inquisitive Inquisition sent an inquiring Inquisitor
do like
to
look at my
inquisitate the
shadow.
traitorous
Hold on.
traders, where he found that
Trying to
they
figure
were
out how to full
indeed
screen this
traitors
is.
who were traitors.
Think this
As
is
it
it?
was decided that the Tau were indeed a threat, Cardinal Gurney declared a purge on them and sent a fleet alongside his world's Brimlock Dragoons. In addition,
That works for me.
some
Fuck
Space
it.
Marine
Good
companies
enough.
joined in, noticeably the Ultramarines, White Scars, and Iron Hands.
You get to enjoy my
The
shadow.
Crusade
you know?
prioritized establishing
never-
imperial control
I'll hide
of the
my
heretical
face.
planets
The shadow
and
is
purging
what
the
I give.
filthy Xenos who made those heretics heretical. So the Crusade kicked off with the Imperial forces recapturing the colonies of Garrus and Kleist. Then they moved into Tau territory to attack the Hydra system. A battle erupted in the space above the Tau planet of Silikel, and this was the first major engagement with the Tau. In space, the Imperials were initially surprised by the Tau's advanced
Should use this
weaponry,
big
which
brush
is a
more,
phrase
but
I'll
I
be
don't
saying a
ever
lot
use
in this
it.
video. However, the Imperial ships were still much more powerful than the Tau counterparts. The battle was won by the Imperials once the Marine reinforcements arrived. They learned that the Tau flunked pirate ship making school because their ships lacked broadside guns, and the White Scar strike cruisers flanked and quickly destroyed the Tau ships, ending the space battle. With the orbital defenses crippled, the Imperials made landfall. Planetside, the Sice of the Emperor and the Brimlock Dragoons fought the Tau. On the ground, the Tau fared better as the Imperials were initially surprised by the Tau's advanced weaponry. However, despite the Tau's firepower and early advantage, they were surprised by the sheer brutality and awesome might of the Space Marines, which is another sentiment that will be repeated throughout the war. The Tau were even warned by a Guvesa how dangerous Space Marines are and how
Here we go.
powerful the Imperium was.
The sound
But
of that
the Tau
video is
couldn't
very
fathom
loud
her
compared
claims
to your
be true
voice.
since they were just so insane. Which, that might sound
Thank you.
dumb, but to
I
be honest,
appreciate
if someone
this.
told you
People
that
need to say
alien
these things
army
so
had an
my audio
empire
isn't
like
fucked up.
10,000 times bigger than yours, fields 8-foot
Let's, do
indestructible
this.
supermen, has walking
And
churches with sun guns,
turn it
all
down.
backed
There
by
we go.
a near infinite army
I like
of
that.
soldiers
I think that's
willing
pretty
to
good.
do damn near anything to serve their god emperor. Well, you think that person was a fucking liar. Also, that Guvesa lady's a bit of a funny fella, but we'll get more on her later. But anyways, due to the Tau underestimating the Marines, they got annihilated in this first battle. But they would eventually adapt
How do I
and
want
get
to start
better.
this?
Also, fun fact, one factor that led the Tau to getting obliterated on Silikel was that the Tau were initially using infantry doctrines against the Space Marines. But those were completely ineffective since Space Marines are just such nutty infantry units. So, in future battles, they switched over to using anti-tank doctrines against the Marines. Back to the battle, after reclaiming Silikel, the Imperials casually exterminated a few Tau worlds of no strategic value and made preparations across the Damocles Gulf in order to make some more fields blue. Again, the Tau were surprised by the Imperium's sheer brutality and callousness at eradicating all life on a world just to further their goals. Then, after crossing
Actually, I
the
put some
Damocles
blue
Gulf,
on the thing.
Imperials launched an assault on Dallas. Of the Dallas
Yeah, last time
benefited from
when
the
I was playing a
crushing
game
victory in
with people
Hydras,
talking
the
in game,
Imperials
you
rushed
couldn't
to
hear their
defend,
voices over
but
mine.
were met with much
So
greater
like,
opposition this
you
time.
literally couldn't understand them
The
if I
Tau had a
spoke
much
ever.
larger fleet, had
And it was
orbital
like
stations
disturbingly
in the capital
quiet, and
world,
it's just really
and
annoying.
were reinforced by Kroot Wars
But I
fields,
can't really
which
use
are
it at
kinda
all
like mini
because
Kroot
you know
craft
it's
worlds.
just unusable.
Also, another fun fact, the War Spheres were made after the Kroot ate some Orc mech boys, so the War Spheres are technically Orc tech. Once again, the Imperials were surprised by the Tau's advanced defense.
That stuff's just annoying though, because it's like,
unless
unless someone tells me, it's really hard to notice.
At this point, the
Unless I listen to my own stuff, but like, I usually don't open a stream and be like, oh boy, I can't wait to test my own audio. Again.
Loser guys with surprisingly strong guns who maybe might just beat us up, and maybe we should stop now. Responding to the heavy defenses, the Imperials took a step back to employ a more methodical approach to destroy the orbital defenses.
And it's just annoying because, yeah, there's some useful stuff in there, and I
technically use it on the YouTube channel, but it kind of just became useless.
Tanks, Marines, and Guardsmen to take over the world. And this was about when the Tau realized that the Titans of quote-unquote propaganda were about to give them a proper gander at the business end of a Sun Fury Annihilator cannon.
And that stuff just annoys me because, yeah, it's like,
crushing the Tau with their initial assault.
I don't know, it just feels like kind of wasted some time.
Force.
I don't like it more because I don't know why
People just don't tell me when they drop by. I'm like, why could you just say something, you bastard? Just say it doesn't work. Anything, please. You'll just save hours of my life.
Shooting a crap load of missiles at whatever thing you want gone. To make matters worse for the Imperials, their forces were being splintered as a young Shadow Sun was luring them away from each other. Thanks to Shadow Sun, the Imperial forces began to be spread too thin, and the Tau were able to regain their footing and inflict heavy casualties. As the war escalated, Guardsmen had a guerrilla off in the forest against Pathfinders and Kroot, Titans were being taken out by mass airstrikes, and Marines were facing Tau crisis teams led by Commander Farsight. And Commander Farsight was actually Commander Foresight in this instance, since he anticipated facing heavily armored troops, and he equipped his men with plasma rifles. The hail of plasma fire and rapid movement of the crisis suits proved more than a match for the mighty Space Marines. Farsight
I don't want to hear my own voice, but yeah, it's just like my voice literally overpowered and I laughed loud, so I was like, well, it's unusable.
Gunships and destroying everything they could with dual fusion cannons before being flown away to rearm and wreak havoc elsewhere. In addition to Farsight's efforts, Shadow Sun was also very successful in leading Tau stealth units to whittle down Imperial forces in night raids and guerrilla strikes. Also, I think it's kind of funny that in this conflict, Farsight canonically thinks Shadow Sun is a hottie. So, do with that what you will. Anyways, despite the Tau making big strides and inflicting huge casualties on the Imperials
yeah, it's like when my mic isn't, like there was I was streaming Fortnite, and I remember Curiosity told me my game was like super zoomed in, and you couldn't hear the people I was talking to, so I was just talking to myself like a fucking psychopath, and it's like, why did no one say anything? Thank you, Curiosity, you saved the stream.
Into the minds of Fireblades and Crisis Commanders. This gave them
I wish my shadow didn't go over the fucking thing so perfectly.
Extraordinarily well. These commanders were known as the Swords of
I need a lamp.
Along with the bloody battles, both sides were scrambling to learn the weaknesses of their enemies. The Tau learned that many Marines adhere strictly to the Codex Astartes, and they began to predict their tactics. They also began to leverage the Imperium's extremely proud and reckless battle style, goading them into disadvantageous engagements and kiting their forces around. Then, on the other hand, the Imperials learned that the Tau suck in melee, didn't really have anything to counter Psykers, and weren't as willing to lose their troops. Thus, they started employing more bayonet charges, sending more assault wizards, and engaging in glorious sword fights. It was also the Psykers who proved a powerful counter to the Swords of Puretide, since the swords were completely clueless facing Psykers, as Puretide never encountered them before. Also, contrary to popular belief,
Magic.
both sides were actually strategizing and fighting extremely
Honestly,
well.
yeah,
Some seem to think that the
I might see if
Imperium
there's a
was
lamp
completely
somewhere in the
tactically
house
inept the
because
whole time, or that
my
the Tau
shadow
was
being
woefully
over this is kind of
outmatched,
awkward.
but both sides fought well and
Pain in
had
the
the other on
leg.
the back foot for most of the war. A crucial moment in this war was when the Imperials begun a siege on the fortress dome city of Ralatas, and it was here that the Tau exacted a powerful blow against the Imperials. The Tau set off a massive EMP device, disabling most of theirs and the Imperials' weapons and vehicles. Then they let loose Kroot carnivore squads whose primitive weaponry was mostly unaffected by the EMP device. This gambit paid off as many Imperials were brutally slaughtered by the Kroot, and many vehicles, including Titans, were put out of commission. This massacre allowed them to get some reinforcements and continue their defense. After some more battling, the Imperial advance was eventually slowed to a crawl, and they were losing troops for unacceptably low gains. This was especially problematic since Tau reinforcements were arriving, and the Imperial fleet was crippled by the past space battle, and it wasn't properly equipped to defend against the space battle to Electric Boogaloo. Since things were looking bad for the Imperials, some of the commanders thought that they should just quit before taking more losses. However, as we all know, 99% of gamblers quit right before a big score. So
That's true.
the Imperials kept at it. So then, both sides continue to take heavy losses while inflicting heavy losses to the other. Eventually, the Tau established supply lines and seems to have gotten a decisive upper hand on the Imperials. Even worse for the Imperials on World, after securing a starport, the Brimlock Dragoons and Titans were evacuated to defend against a potential Tyranid threat. The Space Marines present on the World opposed the retreat since the party wasn't over. And by party, I mean becoming party. You know, since they were getting blown apart by mecha suits. But with a chunk of the Imperial forces leaving, the Tau decide to use their water cast to try and negotiate with the Imperials. Usually negotiating with the Imperium doesn't really go anywhere, but thanks to the Guvesa lady mentioned earlier, the Tau's honorable conduct in the war, and the approaching High Fleet behemoth, Captain Savaliak of the Hammers of Dorn accepted the truce, and the Imperials left Tau space. But speaking of that Guvesa lady earlier, let's talk about her a bit. Her name is Brielle, and she was the daughter of a rogue trader. She defected to the Tau not because of some nerdy ideological reasons, but because her dad wouldn't give her inheritance since she was half Chagorian. So she decided to leave the Imperium to ally with the Tau since she thought she could make more money with them. Unfortunately for her though, the Tau don't really care about money or business. So, realizing she couldn't get the bag with the Tau, she decided to double defect back into the Imperium, which is honestly kind of based, not gonna lie. Gotta stay on that grind, of course. But she was obviously already a heretic, so she started feeding the Tau false information and was important in the Tau and Imperials making their truce. In the end, she was allowed back into the Imperium, and she got super rich. So, moral of the story, sometimes it pays off to be a selfish jerk who betrays their own race and then betrays their new people soon after. Wait, that's not a moral. Oh yeah, this is 40k. Morals are stupid. Speaking of morals, though, what was the lesson to be learned from the Damocles Crusade? And, who actually won the war? Well, no one actually won the war since they agreed on a truce and they both took extremely heavy losses. However, most likely the Tau would have defeated the Imperials on Dalwith, but they would have gotten annihilated by a much larger Imperial force sent in retaliation. Although the Crusade was relatively small by Imperial standards, it was like the worst thing that had ever happened to the Tau thus far and was an extremely deadly war for both sides.
Just another day of 40k, baby.
Don't underestimate little blue people with plasma guns, and if your pal tells you that the enemy has church robots, you best prepare for church robots. Jonkles aside, though, the Damocles Crusade taught both the Tau and the Imperials not to underestimate the other, and that they would both be formidable opponents in the years to come. The Imperium got humbled and learned that the Tau's relatively small forces can more than compensate with robot suits, railguns, and the power of friendship. Then, the Tau learned that they were a small fish in a big ocean full of big fish with bolters and chainswords. They realized what was a near apocalypse level threat to them was a mere fraction of the Imperium's true might. But this war also demonstrated how the Tau can stand up to the much more imposing factions. They leveraged their speedy tech trees and tactics to run with the big boys. And theoretically, most of the other factions could eradicate the Tau, but why would you destroy the little silly blue guys when you have like a trillion eldritch space bugs with sword arms knocking on your front door? Actually, it might be a bit hard to knock on doors with sword arms, but you get the point! And finally, the war demonstrated some of the Ethereals, and by extension Tau's, more grim doings early on. One notable thing was how the heroic Swords of Puretide were callously lobotomized after having the engrams removed. The events of this war also sow some doubt in Farsight's mind, especially when he realized that the Ethereals likely purposely goaded the Imperials into starting the war for propaganda purposes. And so that's the Damocles War. It's a pretty interesting event, and I think it showed both factions in a pretty cool light, effectively demonstrating their faction strengths. But anyways, I have a little announcement. Somebody wanted to send me a red gobbo, so I opened a temporary P.O. box for fan mail and such. I'm not sure anyone will send me anything, and you obviously don't have to, but if you did want to, the address is in my channel bio, and I'll do a little review stream if I do get stuff. Thank you to everyone for watching this, and thank you to all my patrons who help the channel grow and help me to make cool videos.
I want
and
stuff.
as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your trading traders. Thanks! It's pretty funny that after this war, the Tau basically said, you know what, let's make our own stupidly big Titan walkers.
Hour and 17 minutes is pretty long. I want to watch, let's watch, another one, but let's watch, one with the Emperor's Children.
Hi, friends. If you're a big fan of debauchery, degeneracy, or
Debauchery!
the color purple,
Woo!
then let out a big old Doom Rider screech, because this is the video for you. Today, we're talking about perhaps the most depraved Space Marine Legion of them all, the Emperor's Children. These Marines are the main legionary force of the God Access Slanesh, which means there's going to be an excessive amount of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, as well as excessive perfectionism to an appropriately grim dark degree.
It's hard to like capture it all. I should probably put the camera like somewhere else, honestly. But I don't think I can't put it like this direction because then it's facing my computer monitor, and that's weird. If I put this direction, I guess you guys see my bed. If I put this direction, it's weirder. I don't know.
Too uppity to work alongside regular human soldiers in this way. During the Great Crusade, the Emperor's Children's stellar record and efficiency meant that the Emperor assigned them important missions, and they're colloquially known as his heralds. This is also where their purple armor originated, as it was meant to signify their royal duties.
Yeah, I have a bad habit of pulling it towards me when I like need to like focus on smaller areas.
But in the Great Crusade era, the Emperor's Children were the only legion allowed to wear it after they saved the Emperor in the Proximan betrayal, and they bore the icon to signify the Emperor's appreciation and reverence of the chapter. But it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. These purple fellows were struck with tragedy when everyone's favorite Skelly boy stole a ton of the Emperor's Children's gene seed, and to make matters worse, their gene seed on Terra got infected with the Blight, which caused the Marines with the seed to experience rapid organ failure. The Emperor's Children culled the infected in order to save the Legion, but they were ravaged and only had 200 Marines left. Luckily for them, however, they would meet their fabulous Primarch Fulgrim on the mining planet Akimos. Like his legion, Fulgrim strove for perfection in all things and was a master duelist and smith. He brought his planet Akimos to prosperity with his technical know-how and political acumen. He went from a humble laborer to a ruling executive. He made the planet so darn efficient that the Kimosians made Fulgrim their glorious leader. Fulgrim also had a number of political marriages, so you know what that means. Gulp. Upon reuniting with his sons, he gave a rousing speech that was so inspirational that the Emperor officially named his legion the Emperor's Children. So, with his sons, he further reinforced the perfection they strove for in order to honor the Emperor, and this was doubly important since they were so few. He also became enamored with the art since Kimos was a drab, boring planet. He taught his legion to appreciate the beautiful works of humanity, how to be more perfect duelists, and his skin and hair routine so that they would all be hotties. At first, the Legion was too small to do their own operations, so they had to work alongside the Luna Wolves while their numbers were rebuilt. Here, fighting alongside his brother, Fulgrim grew very close to Horus and highly respected him. Eventually, Fulgrim would get enough Marines to lead his own campaigns, and he split after Horus became War Master. In his crusades, Fulgrim constantly sought to improve and become more and more perfect. He would often flaunt and test his legion's perfection by doing wacko strategies. For example, one time he took over an entire planet with just 7 of his legionaries, which, even for a Primarch, is very nutty. Then, another one of Fulgrim's bases was Ferris.
The Shadow Stream.
The Primarch sought to perfect
The blurry stream.
and bonded over their ideals. To signify their friendship, they gifted each other
Camera.
a master-crafted
Focus.
weapon, Fulgrim making the Warhammer Forgebreaker, and Ferris crafting the Fireblade. So, off to crusading they went. Under Fulgrim's command, the Emperor's Children became renowned once more as one of the most efficient and threatening legions. But one fateful day, they were sent to conquer the world of Laren. The Layers of Laren were a snake-like Xenos species that, just like the Emperor's Children, sought to perfect themselves. But they went further than just simple training. These snake boys would genetically modify their bodies and use chemical stimulants to suit whatever
What
battlefield role
happened?
they
Come on,
needed.
man.
This, in combination with their advanced tech, made them a formidable foe, and thus, Fulgrim's perfect legion was sent to exterminate them. The Administratum estimated that extermination would take decades to complete, but the Emperor's Children are too perfect and too fabulous to play with snakes for that long, and they genocided the layer in just a month. Although they took heavy casualties, this was still an insane feat from the Purple Boys. But this victory would be a defining moment for the league.
It says something went wrong, try again.
As a prize, and Fabius Bile took an interest in the biological experimentation.
Yeah, it just says something went wrong, try again.
Later on, it would be recognized that the Lair were in fact Slaaneshi worshippers, and the Lair blade was a demon sword. But that will be more important later on. It was also after this battle.
One day I'll
famous
like
Noise
install
Marines
Firefox
found
just to use it.
When a remembrancer created a symphony called
Thank you.
Maravilla,
Sorry, I failed you.
or as the cool kids call it, Margaritaville. This song was so wicked rad and infused with Slaaneshi energies that the audience started an orgy of both the sex and murder variety. The frequencies
The
produced
sex
from
and the murder.
were also said to be
We
fatal
like this.
and would serve as a basis to the Noise Marines weaponry. More on them later, though. By the way, if you didn't know, I went to LVO this last weekend, and it was a great time. I got to meet up with some YouTube friends and had fun at the convention. However, I may have just went a bit overboard on the buying a ton of stuff department, and I bought a ton of stuff. So, however, will I transport all this stuff once I finally build and paint it? Well, thank goodness for today's sponsor, Tabletop Stronghold. Tabletop Stronghold is a one-man company that makes excellent mini cases and MDF terrain. Their signature Mag Case 2.0 is really customizable with removable steel trays that slide out for easy access to your minis, and they're easy to rearrange in order to optimize the space your army's needs. The steel trays mean that you can magnetize your minis to be super secure for the drive to the local game store, and it even comes with a bunch of 3x2mm magnets to glue those bases. There's 3 different sizes based on your needs, a mini, a regular, and a mega. I used a regular size and it fits my 4,000-ish point guard army quite nicely. But even the mini version has a surprisingly big capacity, and the megas, of course, well,
I'm taking
mega.
I have
Speaking of
taken
mega,
22
the
minutes
cases are
just for the
also
legs.
mega
Holy
durable,
moly.
being able to hold up to 250 pounds. So I could rest assured that my lovely guardsmen and marines will be safe and sound.
Here.
And right now, Tabletop Stronghold just
No, I'm not doing much. Let me open up Firefox. Is it Google Chrome I need to do this on? Chrome? I don't have Chrome on my computer. Oh my god, I don't have Chrome on my computer. What the fuck? Okay, never mind.
start a winter sale with deals up to
I'll do this
30%
later.
off.
Woo!
Plus, there's free shipping to the US, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and most of the EU. So, if this sounds good to you, check out Tabletop Stronghold and buy one of their sweet cases today. Another notable encounter was on the world of Tarsus, where Fulgrim met the legendary Eldrad Ulthwé. Eldrad foresaw Horus's heresy, which would fester from a fateful wound he received on Anathame. Fulgrim didn't like Eldrad dissing his homeboy and attacked the silly elf. He ended up killing a Wraith Lord, Avatar of Cain, and a ton of other elf guys. Afterwards, he also virus bombed a few Eldar Maiden worlds just to make sure they learned not to accuse Mr. Horus Heresy of any Horus Heresy Inc. Although he didn't believe the elf, Fulgrim went to confront Horus about his potential heresy, but he eventually got persuaded to join Horus. Hey, I heard from some elf guy that you're a heretic now. Tell me this isn't true. I hate heretics. Oh, hello, Fulgrim. Looking good. Yes, I know. I always do. Listen, I might be a heretic now, and I know you said you hate heretics, but okay, you convinced me. Let's kill the Emperor. Oh, really? Sweet, let's do it. Fulgrim wasn't actually swayed as easily as I made it sound, but his respect for Horus and manipulation from his very special sinister silver sword allowed the once zealously loyal Fulgrim to be corrupted, and he decided that the Emperor was actually hindering the perfection that humanity could achieve. After being convinced, Fulgrim tried to convince his bestie Ferris to also join Team Heresy, but Ferris was not so easily swayed and fought his former bestie. The two would meet again on Isfan 5 and would engage in their final duel. Using the weapons that were once a sign of friendship and brotherhood, the besties clashed. Both weapons were shattered, that's called symbolism, but Fulgrim eventually emerged victorious thanks to the Layer Blade. With Ferris defeated, Fulgrim could not bring himself to kill his brother, but luckily, the demon within the blade helped him out there. The demon possessed Fulgrim and beheaded Mr. Iron Hands. Then, Fulgrim had a bit of post-cut clarity, and he was horrified at the demon's actions, but not horrified enough to not let the demon within wholly possess his body and soul. Fulgrim would eventually exorcise the demon from himself, but at that point he decided he liked being an insane demon man, and basically did the same shit he did as a possessed insano, and he devoted himself to Slaanesh. Sometime later, Fulgrim completed a ritual to ascend to demonhood fully, and became the snaky demon Primarch we all know and, I guess some love. In his demon form, he was a near unstoppable force, wielding 4 arms, an agile snake body, big old demon wings,
Camera
and
painting, I'm
possessing
sorry.
powerful psychic
Enjoy the
powers.
video for a second. I
By
need
the
to
Siege of Terra, the Emperor's
lock
children
in.
all but abandoned their nobility and love for humanity.
The
They
crotch
were
piece is
only
really
sought
hard to see.
perfection
That's
and
why I
captured
need to like
human
pull it
slaves
closer.
for the experiments needed to achieve their sinister goals. After the heresy, the Emperor's children splintered into war bands, continued their experiments, and became raiders to gather supplies and subjects. Although they had long abandoned their nobility and oaths, the children clung on to the pursuit of perfection. Their endless pursuit of perfection already made them the perfect legion for the god of excess, but once devoting themselves to Slaanesh, they took it to the absolute excessive extreme, and they found new and innovative forms of degeneracy.
Yeah!
To debauchery.
Degeneracy!
Stimulants from their victims, slaughtering worlds in increasingly depraved ways, and seeking pleasure in the form of combat, drugs, and whatever else a silly pink marine might like. And also, quick aside here, a lot of people think that the Emperor's Children and Slaanesh in general are just a sex faction. Haha, sex! But Marines don't actually care about that, and most of the time they get their thrills from drugs, murder, and torture. Slaaneshi cultists probably like getting down, but not really Marines. They're certainly outliers, but it's not the entire faction. Anyways, using his findings on Laren, Fabius Bile tried to create genetically perfect Marines through genetic trickery and biological augmentation. He also became the leader of the Legion after Fulgrim supposedly fucked off to some hooker planet gifted by Slaanesh. But despite potentially different agendas, most Emperor's children became wholly possessed by their pursuit of perfection and went insane trying to achieve it. For a little bit after the heresy, the Emperor's children partook in a little civil war with the other Chaos Legions, using the conflict to experiment on enemy forces and then eventually on their own fellows Emperor's children. But Abaddon eventually mostly united the Chaos Legions, at least as unified
Press update?
force called Chaos could
The
possibly
legs are
be.
pretty much
Then,
done,
afterwards,
kinda.
Eidolon sought to
It's
unify
kinda hard
the
to
Legion
reach
and
behind
used
the
its
gun,
village loyalist gene
but
seed to
yeah,
recreate the Emperor's
doing
children
good.
gene seed and strengthen his legion to its
Backpack's like
former
halfway.
glory.
I did a little in the
In
arm.
the current time, the Emperor's children are one of the scariest foes to face since they'll do a lot
Are
more.
you
than
at work,
just kill.
Banana?
They
How's work going?
specialize in terror raids.
That place
and
getting
have
any
some of
better?
the most skilled duelists, if not the most skilled duelists around. And the best of these duelists are called the Flawless Blades, and they serve as the champions of the Legion and were born of the remnants of the Palatine Blades of the Great Crusade. These dudes are masters with the blade and use combat stims to further their combat efficiency. They're said to have the perfect
Training?
body for
Oh,
combat
boy.
due to blessings.
That's the
from
ideal
Slaanesh.
time to watch YouTube
You call
videos.
them blessings.
Is
I
it like
call
those
them
videos where they
the
just sit you
fuck
down
ugly.
and then they just
Another
play like,
special
hey,
unit that were
this
previously
be a
mentioned
human
are the
being to your
Noidmans.
coworkers.
And these
Hey,
dudes
don't
are
do
really
drugs.
40K carries. They
Woohoo!
really call back to the early days of GW, just throwing whatever cool stuff was popular at the time into the
I
best
fucking
setting
hate that
ever.
stuff. Oh
These
my gosh.
glam rock
I
drum
hate how they
belt
do that. It's
wackos
like
go around performing
my
the
brother.
ancient song of Slaanesh to honor their god and slay their foes. This song was made by the Eldar and is said to be the final straw in birthing the god of excess. So now the Noise Marines sing this song to be one with their god and spread its influence. These Marines are heavily mutated and they use a cacophony of sonic weapons that bring great pleasure to themselves while literally killing their enemies with the power of satanic rock and roll. They can also make warp screams to further disorient their foes before the kill. But with that, overall, the Emperor's Children are a very cool faction. Admittedly,
I always
they've
have the
never
issue
been
of
my
like,
favorite, but I understand the appeal
I like
of
it when
playing
I
one
can
of
sit
the
there by
most
myself and watch the
adventurous
videos
and
because
one of
I'll
the most
usually
grim factions
almost
in
pass
the
out
Dark
every time
Side
from
of
watching them. So I'm
40K.
like, please don't
Plus,
have
the
someone watching me.
tragedy of their impossible goal of achieving perfection, causing the decline from noble protectors of humanity who were aspirational heroes into the horrifying sodomites is quite fascinating, and I feel it demonstrates how one might fall to Slaanesh. I think it's also a bit sad that many just think that the Emperor's Children are the tee-hee sex faction, since them being the epitome of self-destructive perfectionism and excess is a lot more interesting. These fellas are extra in every single field. They get excessively obsessed with being the perfect warrior, they get excessively obsessed with getting the perfect body, they get excessively obsessed with executing the perfect raid, and so on. I think this is a much more interesting and sympathetic path to Slaanesh than simple goonin'. In a creative hobby like 40K, I think most of us can relate to trying to paint the perfect model or creating the perfect list. But at the end of the day, you just gotta realize that sometimes good is good enough, and trying to achieve perfection will turn you into a gross, ugly mutant Pinhead Larry who thinks he's hot. And of all the legions,
Problem
they
with being a
perhaps have
Pinhead
the
Larry is
hardest
hot.
of all,
Fuck you,
from
maybe I
noble
wanna be.
protectors and artists who are mega devoted to the Emperor and humanity, to the most depraved psychos who sacrificed it all for their own selfish, fanatical obsessions. The fact that they retain the Emperor's Children moniker is also fascinating, as they represent the monsters that the Emperor inadvertently created with his own obsession to his impossible ambitions. But anyways, I'll make another video in the future discussing iconic characters like Fabius Bile, everyone's favorite Emperor's child ever, Lucius the Eternal, and everyone's actual favorite Emperor's child ever, Rylanor the Unyielding. But for now, that's been the Emperor's Children. Thank you again to Tabletop Stronghold for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in the description if you are in need of a mini transport solution. And of course, thank you for watching, and thank you to all the patrons who help me make these cool videos. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your pretty pink profaners. Thanks. I really love the new Emperor's Children models, especially Lucius. Like, his stupid lizard face is just perfect. But I wish they didn't take away his iconic leg faces.
Vampire Italians. Oh god. I need a new video, kind of video. What are we watching? You could watch Hell's Kitchen. Lego Castle full history. Holy fuck. Tempting? So much slop. Nothing I actually want to watch. Hulk eats Wolverine and shits him out. How'd you know what I wanted you to? How did you know? How were you on it? No. No! Let's go back. Ricky Command. I actually looked at. I hit refresh the second it happened. Dude, Command & Conquer is so fucking funny.
When you think of a villain, especially a villain in the Command & Conquer series, generally your mind goes to Kane. See that man just bathed in red light, the crazy coat he's got on. He really
I love these
emanates
games.
the
They're so
power of
fun.
a villain, doesn't he? But truly, it's not the fact that he's a fanatical cult leader. It's not the fact that he's a murderous crazy man or his drip. He's evil because he's bald. And that's why
That's
he
true!
needs
For American.
Did you know 2 out of 3 men will experience some form of male power and baldness in their time? In fact, sometimes very early on. And the most important thing to do is to make sure that you are preventative. And with Keeps, you can make sure that you do not become a villain like our boy Kane here, despite this fantastic drip. And I've sung the praise of Keeps pretty often because the company seemed great, the products seemed great, and the reviews were wonderful. And just about a month ago, I decided to take the plunge into it myself. I mean, I'm pretty happy with where my hair is at right now, but I noticed, you know, there's a little bit here and there. And I'm like, hey, you know, the point is preventative anyway, so here I am with it.
That's
it takes
true.
a few months to really settle
The
in, but
real
that's
villain
kind
is
of the point. If nothing
sorry
changes,
that he's
then I'm doing it
bald.
right. And I felt that considering how much I advertise this product, I should be definitely taking more of a chance to use it and not just rely on other reviews. So with that being said, you can go down in the description and go to keeps.com/bricky to get 50% off your first order.
Fucking
Once
snap
again,
noise.
it's in the description, keeps.com/bricky. Do not be like Kane. He's a very bad man, And with that being said, thank you for sponsoring this video. And let's talk about
What did your
Zone
path of
Raiders. Hello, everyone. My name
villainous
is
start?
Ricky.
Well,
Currently experiencing
I lost all my hair.
I'm hearing Missile Squad ready for combat in my every waking nightmare.
Missile Squad ready for
Strategy
combat.
games, they're hard. They're hard from both a technical and big brain point of view. Having a good APM while micromanaging units, buildings, production queues, and whatever the
I played this
your
game a lot on
opponent is doing,
Xbox.
it takes a lot of skill. And you know who always has
So
a
I love
skill
this game.
issue? This guy. Bricky have skill issue. Hard thing make Bricky scared. Bricky allergic to hard thing. You go near hard thing and you go. But for some reason, my parents thought it was a good idea to buy me StarCraft Brood War when I was a really young kid, and god damn it, did I have a good time with it. So young RTS player Bricky decided to keep that train rolling, jumped onto the Command and Conquer series.
Command and Conquer goes
3
hard.
and fell in love. And from there, I mean, StarCraft is a very popular RTS game, arguably the most popular RTS game out there, but it is not my favorite. That title goes to Command and Conquer 3: Kane's Wrath.
That
Kane's
game is
Wrath
so much fun.
is just a gem. It is
It really
graduated from
is.
the goat straight
It's
to
so
loose.
good.
Command and Conquer 3. Oh my god.
Oh
what
my
a game.
God,
Made
dude.
with so much love, so much care, so much polish. When
Ooh,
one
he
was at the
gets it.
forefront.
Oh.
And it was made by EA, so sales figures were there. But
No!
and I mean, you know me. Well, okay, maybe some of you don't know me. For those who don't know me, hi, I'm Bricky. I make video. But besides that, you know, I just jump around from topics. I just bounce around talking about what the hell I want to talk about. So I felt like talking about Command & Conquer 3: Kane's Wrath because it's a goddamn amazing RTS game. Okay, fuck you.
I wish there was a way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them.
So Command & Conquer 3 is a long-running RTS series, or was long-running. Fuck you, EA. There was Generals, Red Alert, Tiberium
Fuck you,
Wars,
EA.
just many types of Command
Oh.
& Conquer games that spanned very many genres and how they played. Now, being 26, I didn't really get into Generals very much, and I didn't really get into Red Alert until Red Alert 3 came out, and even that,
Red-
I mean,
Red-
Command
Red
& Conquer
3 is kinda
Tiberium
doggo.
Sun was the prequel to Tiberium Wars, and that came out way, way, way back when. So I got really big into Command & Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars when it came out. And jumping into that game, I was a little surprised, especially as a younger kid, with the campaign, because RTS campaigns are a little hit or miss, and this one was a little hit or miss with its camp and its insane amounts of cheese, but it took some genuine issues.
What are you doing? He's defenseless!
He's the enemy! Okay, so for starters, all of the actual like live action acting and stuff for all these games are border between being somewhat decent to being passable to being absolute crap. It just depended on what mission you were on. The script was all over the place, the sets were funny, you know, but at the same time, there was so much charm to it that it was acceptable.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!
I want you to look at Armstrong of Metal Gear Rising.
I forgot
Okay,
about
in terms of story, Armstrong being the final villain.
The one
of
place
the
capitalism
Genesis
can't
planet,
reach.
Barely set up at all, mentioned like once, and then just arrives with a 20-minute cutscene. It's honestly pretty awful writing. But
Oh,
it's
fuck
so
me, man,
fucking
that's fucking
funny
funny.
and charming that you don't give a shit because it's Nano Machine Man. I kind of get that feeling a little bit, except the game deals with some pretty specific and highly political issues. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Tiberium Wars is a sequel to Tiberium Sun that came out in the 1990s. The third game follows the third Tiberium War. Tiberium is a mysterious alien substance that crash landed on Earth. This was sometime in the 1990s, and it began terraforming the landscape. It would constantly mutate the local flora and fauna, and overall just spread pretty rapidly, and it was generally dangerous and toxic to humans. However, it was also a very potent fuel source, a very powerful resource. So despite the obvious dangers of toxic gas, massive human mutation, this becoming such a major resource and how much it was spreading across the planet made it very sought after. In the 2040s, about 50 years later, this is when our two major factions are fighting. The Global Defense Initiative, or GDI, is the general law and order kind of group. They're an amalgamation of a ton of countries countries all coming together with the pretty standard, like, American-looking law and order and strength in terms of military might kind of group. They're trying to combat the spread of the crystals and generally protect everybody and keep everyone all huddled together in these nice, safe zones. And they're fighting the Brotherhood of Nod. The Brotherhood of Nod believe that the crystals are serving as humanity's next evolution, that the use and mutation, etc., of Tiberium is what will bring people up into, I don't know, some kind of like massive new livelihood. You know how that kind of people go. When they're led by their very, very smooth leader, Cain. The world is generally collapsed altogether, and any kind of national border has been removed or assimilated, and now the entire world is ran into zones. You've got blue zones, yellow zones, and red zones. Blue zones are life as we generally know it, almost free of any kind of Tiberium, and the GDI take up almost the entirety of the blue zones.
No,
Yellow zones have light Tiberium exposure.
I was trying to avoid the
here and
helmet as much
there.
as possible.
It's
I fucked
generally
up.
demilitarized, very, well, you know, scavenger-like, and Nod takes up most of these areas. Red zones
you know,
are
painting.
nearly uninhabitable. Nod has
okay.
some of these as well, but generally if you're in a red zone, you just can't live there. See, these cutting up of zones is generally where the overall fighting between GDI and Nod take place. Because to the Brotherhood of Nod, they see GDI as the oppressors. They have gone out and taken all of the habitable blue zones, all of the areas that are the safest, and they have shoved everyone else out. GDI are forcing the impoverished and the unworthy out of the safe zones into the scavenger wastelands. This generally creates anger and animosity to the people pushed out by GDI and have them go directly to the direct opposition, the fanatical terrorist group Brotherhood of Nod. Because when you and your family have been pushed out of a safe zone to scavenge for yourself, joining a fanatical group to tear down the oppressors is not that far from an understandable course of action. Oh yeah, there's also the Skrin too. That's like the Tiberium aliens. They just kind of show up at the end. I mean, they have their own lore and stuff, but honestly, it's not as interesting to me. They're really cool looking, but they're just like, hey, here's your
Yeah, I didn't
faction.
care about those
You know,
aliens.
looking back at it,
They just
it's
kinda
really
had
nice
their
when a
faction
game
and it's just like,
genuinely
whatever.
has a political theme going on with it. And I mean like real politics. Not, oh my god, Twitter mad gay people in games politics. None of that. Like, real politics.
Yeah, this is
The
about Command and Conquer.
creation and enforcement of borders. The issue of
I loved
WMPs
Command and Conquer when
for
I was a
both
kid.
the
It was
big
so much
and
fun.
Small factions. The fanaticalization.
Pause in the stream. Tactical pause. Mate, turn this off. Turn this off. This is the most retarded thing ever. Let's show Steam. Okay, let's go to store. Let's type Command and Conquer, right? Like fucking here's my man and Conquer, right? Say you want to buy Command and Conquer Kane's Wrath, right? That's the one. That's the goat. You have to like find a code, or you got to like pay a subscription. I think you can't buy this all in one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just a subscription, which is the most retarded thing ever, so you can't even play it. Yeah, I probably should just pirate it. I'm not a fucking filthy pirate. But yeah, I should. Yeah, that's my annoyance of the day right there.
Of people forced out by a government they believe don't care about them, and the horrible things people will do to that government and its citizens in response. And despite the fact that this game is made by EA, there's some balls to that. Now, this campaign still has its very goofy moments and still very campy at times, but the actual thing, the actual entire scale of a political war, really fascinating, which creates the foundation for this gameplay. And boy, ow, I forgot I had a bruise there. It's good gameplay.
The game is fun.
So in Tiberium Wars, and if I haven't made this clear, Command & Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars is the first game. Kane's Wrath is like the expansion of it. But in Tiberium Wars, the original, there were three factions: the GDI, Nod, and Skrin. GDI is the military group.
Kane's Wrath, you can also have three sub-factions. I played GDI, obviously.
Style of group. Their stuff looks generally clean, disciplined, and functional. Their units move and speak generally rather professionally, but just have enough personality to stand out. Things like rifleman squads,
Securing structure.
Predator tanks,
Predator ready for battle.
look and generally sound the part. But as you go up the tech tree, that personality starts to really make its way out. Things like zone troopers,
Zone troopers are sick.
mammoth tanks,
Mammoth advancing.
commando.
He's going dirt tasting.
All give GDI a bit more intrigue in their character voicing that has them stand out as, yeah, they're part of the Peacekeeper group, but these people have been around. They're allowed to talk a little more loosely because they're veterans. As far as Nod is concerned, despite the whole concept of fanaticisation and all that stuff, Nod is definitely playing the role as the bad guys. And I mean, they're terrorists, so it's fair, but their voice lines really show it. Nod is a militant force, and they act like it. Their buildings are a bit more looming. Their presence is a lot more sinister. The way things are curved and sometimes spiked, or like even things like their airfield doesn't look like a normal airfield. It's like a giant spire in the sky. Their voice acting is impeccable though. Honestly, Nod might be some of the best voice acting in an RTS game I have ever played. I mean, the Militant Squad alone shows what they're all about.
The oppressors must die. Make them suffer.
Saboteurs are sinister. Attack bikes are just total masochists.
Let's go for a hunt. Kill them all.
Things like flame tanks have this grueling, brooding nature to them.
Cleansing fire.
Hell, just that way a flame tank says their own name.
Flame tank.
Just that venomous delivery is oh. This also moves
He
their
gets
tactics
it.
and weaponry.
Sucks.
You know, GDI feels like it has a pretty standard
Oh.
way of doing its fighting. You've got air support, you've got tanks and infantry, all that kind of stuff. Nod is a little more mischievous. They are use what's at their disposal. Instead of machine guns and tanks, they have lasers and Tiberium upgraded missiles and flamethrowers. They have a unit called the Reckoner, which is like a suicide truck where you just run it into your opponent's base, you plant it down, it becomes really tanky, and then everything inside just generally burns things to death. Normally it's with flamethrower guys. The flame tank is a tank with flamethrowers. Their big scary top level vehicle is called the Avatar, and that thing will kill your other vehicles to gain upgrades. So just rip it up and place something on its shoulder. Oh god, of course. How could I not forget the literal suicide bomber unit you can build called the Fanatics? They have bombs on their chests. I don't know how more I can describe this. They run with their hands in the air and they go boom, and they do a lot of damage. Yeah, I mean,
They run in and they go boom.
Nod are good people. They have a lot of personality though. The Skrin I have less to say about because they're aliens. The idea of them is very alien. They sound alien. Their voice acting is actually, or whatever their sound mixing is really good, actually. They all sound genuinely pretty alien. Honestly, the sound design of all their creatures is really good. There's a lot of effort put into it. They're kind of just an amalgamation of of everything. There's plenty of alien, as in, you know, alien. You've got some The Day the Earth Stood Still with like their buzzer swarms and stuff. You got some Independence Day.
I need to bring
you
it
got the War of
closer
the
to me. I'm
Worlds
having a
tripods.
hard
You've
time
got
getting a
quite
spot.
a lot of just stuff pulled from other things, but in a weird way, when you pull from so much else, you almost kind of make your own thing. And they feel unique despite the fact that it's obviously inspired. They also play super alien as well. They utilize Tiberium a lot to either buff their weaponry, or it allows them to create more Tiberium fields, which acts as the game resource.
Blue dude, a blue dude. Look at the blue dude. He is so blue. I said, wow, what a blue dude.
They're doing all that kind of stuff. Despite that all, though, they still feel familiar to play, and pick up and playing them is pretty simple, just like with the other two factions. Then you get to Kane's Wrath. Kane's Wrath decided to expand upon the 3 rosters. Instead of going from just 3 factions, you now have 9. However, they're subsections of the original.
Yep.
So you got
That's
still
why I
GDI,
really liked
Nod, and
it.
Scrim, but now you have 2 sub-factions per group. For GDI, we had the Steel Talons and the Zocom. Steel Talons rule. I gotta do it. It's always funny. They're an experimental weapon group that's generally focused around the ground combat and also walkers.
Might have
They
to
don't
consider
really
this.
build
I do have a lot of
high-level
games to
infantry
play,
like
though,
Zone Trooper,
so-
sniper teams. They also don't build like the Shadow
Zone
tank.
Trooper.
However, they make up for it by different kinds of changes to
Oh my god,
other
I love that
tanks.
they have the
Instead of
old
Predator
mechs.
tank, you have the Titan. Instead of the Shatterer, you have the Wolverine. The Titan is a big walking giant that has a gigantic gun on its side, and the Wolverine is a massive anti-infantry murderer on legs. Their harvesters become heavy harvesters that are tankier and can put infantry inside of it, and their juggernauts, which are these enormous howitzers on legs, now can also fit infantry in them and have a little bit more of an AoE blast. Steel Talons is like that when you really want to just roll over your opponent, utilizing nothing but tons of tanks. You have like 20 Titans, and you've got some Juggernauts, or no, Behemoths in the back, Wolverines ripping people apart. AP ammo is insanely powerful, and it's just a damn good time. ZOCOM, or Zone Operations Command, is entirely based around working with, you know, really bad Tiberium fields and stuff. They also really like sonic stuff. Their orcas fire sonic things instead of regular missiles for their aircraft. They have the Shatterer, but it's the Zone Shatterer, so it can fire this big old sonic blast at people. And their Zone Troopers have become Zone Raiders, which is exactly where I developed my kink for strong women in big fucking armor. Miss me with that bikini armor shit.
Bikini armor,
Get
cringe.
Full plate.
Oh.
Zone Raiders are actually really
He gets
dope.
it.
Instead of
He
Zone
gets
Troopers
it, you
with
know.
the big rail guns, they've got
I've never heard such a
blasters
man
and
of
shoulder-mounted
culture.
Anti-aircraft missile launchers. Honestly, ZOCOM in general can mass infantry and do a pretty damn good job at it. A lot of their infantry have great upgrades that they're allowed with this faction, and mobilizing tons of Zone Raiders, those missile troopers, and then even some cyber teams here and there, throw a commando in there. There's a lot of strength in that army. Or you could fall back on the classic ZOCOM strategy, which is 1,000,000 hammerhead gunships filled with Zone Raiders. It's just everything dies. Like, you can't stop it. It is insane. As for Nod, you got two factions known as the Marked of Cain and the Black Hand. The Black Hand is my favorite faction in all of Command and Conquer. I fucking love this faction so much. If you don't know what the Black Hand is, it's fire. Fire in everything. The Black Hand is actually a regular unit Nod can create, which is a group of flamethrower troopers, and they're kind of a little heavier, a little heavily armored. However, in this one, it doubles up its specialization. They completely forego all aircraft.
Okay.
No aircraft at
I'll be
all.
right back. I have to pee. Picking up on you. Just a good friend that pawns it on. Look at him. I do. It's a bitch.
And they put all their effort directly into flame. Your basic militant group is no longer that. They're called the Confessor
I like the
Cabal
donate idea.
that
It's
has
pretty
mind
funny.
control grenades. And all of their flame-based things come out promoted, which I haven't talked about yet. In Command and Conquer, the idea of a veteran unit is taken seriously. A unit that has survived a long period of time and killed a lot of things will become promoted. The more promoted you are, the tankier you are, the more powerful you are with your weapons, and if you reach the top, become a heroic unit, you have an increased fire rate and you have health regen. So of the 4 tiers, regular, promotion 1, 2, and top heroic, coming out of promotion 1 naturally is pretty good. Not only that, but you can have an upgrade that adds a Black Hand flamethrower guy to every infantry squad you make. You just want some regular confessors with their guns, there's a flamethrower guy in there. Missile launchers, there's a flamethrower guy in there. There's a flamethrower guy everywhere. You could upgrade them with blue purifying flame. Do you know the power and the fun of taking 2 flame tanks with blue flame, bringing it into the backline of your opponent's base and watching as it instantly melts every building they've ever had? Hell, their giant walker, the Avatar, it's called the Purifier now. Laser gun, sure. Mounted flamethrower on every single one of them. Oh, you know it. They even have commandos, which we'll talk about in a moment, but they can make 2 of them, and they both come out at full heroic rank, max rank. Yeah. Oh yeah. Black Hand is fun. You can literally amass an entire group of infantry, and you don't even need to tech for anti-infantry. Why tech for it? Everyone has a flamethrower. You already have it. Just mow them over in a wash of blue purifying flame. I mean, come on, I placed this.
He's making this sound really beautiful.
Is there any surprise I like this? The Marked of Cain, however, bit weirder. They're a little bit more on the cybernetic side of things. We're talking cyborgs. Regular militant squads are in fact turned into something known as the Awakened. In fact, if you have a bunch of militant squads dying, you could actually have them rise up again from the dead as these Awakened squads. They have Tiberium Troopers, which are a variant of the flamethrower Black Hand, but they fire liquid Tiberium instead. That's a war crime. They've got tons of EMPs to go around everywhere, and they can upgrade a lot of their laser weaponry with a higher blue tier laser, which on Venom aircraft is... Oh my god, spamming blue laser Venom aircraft is a strategy I've done quite often. I mean, they're Tiberium-loving techno-fetishists for Nod. It completely parses. Finally, with Skrin, we have Reaper 17 and Traveler 59. Reaper 17 goes hard into Tiberium. They mutilate themselves and they screw around with their bodies to add more Tiberium upgrades whenever they can. It's all about increasing the amount of Tiberium, buffing yourself with Tiberium, and having a really strong ground force that just rolls over people. Reaper 17 is a great steamroll faction because they forego their aircraft. And let me tell you, Skrin aircraft are pretty freaking good. So foregoing the aircraft, you better have something good to make up for it. And they absolutely do. They even have giant green tripods. They have this fancy unit called the Ravager. They're a good time. I like Reaper 17 quite a bit. Traveler 59 is a little bit more weird, a little more experimental. They go harder into the aircraft. They have their little Storm Riders, which are these tiny harassment guys that are pretty good. But then you've also got their Devastator warships, which are insanely long-range artillery platforms. And then you've got your planetary assault carriers, which are... It's a gigantic carrier, and enough of those will kill anything and everything. They also like their mind control. They can make things called cultists, which are just dudes with giant things on their head, and they can mind control enemy units. And it's a little bullshit, not gonna lie. They have to be in range to mind control, but they have unlimited range past that. Their commando also can AoE mind control and teleport, and can mind control buildings. You can mind control your buddy's major construction yard and just sell it after teleporting. They can be a little dumb. I don't know how strong Traveler 59 are in like the meta game, but you know, some things don't need to be good to be fucking annoying. That's Traveler 59. So with all these 9 factions, what does this give us? Well, it gives us an incredibly expansive and impressive RTS game with a ton of variety, but without ever feeling unfamiliar. See, despite all these sub-factions, no one really operates that different from each other. It's just like specialization. You know, look at GDI. Their Harvesters have little anti-infantry guns on their top. The Steel Talons ones are tankier that can put infantry in them, and the Zocom ones have missiles. But they're all still just harvesters. They still do the same thing. You place down a refinery, a harvester gathers Tiberium, and you get your money. Certain things, like the Reaper 17, can help expand their Tiberium income and spike the growth of their areas, but they still gather it. All factions need power. All factions have power plants you need to build. Infantry units are built from the infantry building. Every faction has an infantry building. Like, this might sound obvious, but it's the fact that in a game with 9 factions, it's so easy to understand exactly what's going on. You know what the refineries look like. You know which stuff gives what. You know what power plants are. You know what's important. Sure, Black Hand might not be building any airfields because they don't have aircraft, but oh well, I don't need to build anti-aircraft. Good luck still, though. Flamethrowers, Lamau. In fact, I think the thing I love the most about Kane's Wrath more than any other RTS game is that it feels like you're microing your macro. That's really dumb sounding. That's so stupid. Okay, I need to explain this.
Strategery.
Okay, the game feels more macro heavy than it does micro. If you don't know those terms, micro is the high APM, crazy, insane StarCraft player thing, right? Where they're moving Marines back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. All their units are going tiny little things, you know, micro stuff. Macro is your overall game knowledge and like building of resources, tech trees, upgrades, expansions, things that don't involve tiny micro units. However, in StarCraft, a battle cruiser, you know, the biggest, most powerful unit in StarCraft, is built in 160 seconds, 2.5 minutes. A mammoth tank, the big, scary mammoth tank of the GDI, their highest level vehicle, takes 25 seconds to build. The Marv, the gigantic vehicle that came out in Kane's Wrath, along with the Redeemer and the Eradicator Hexapod, 50 seconds. Double the time, practically a third of the battlecruiser. But at the same time, I feel like the units die at either the same speed or slower than they do in StarCraft. But your resource deposits also go away much faster. Also, when you spend resources, you don't need to hit thresholds like you do in StarCraft. You don't need to have 50 minerals to create a Terran Marine. You just need to have anything in the queue, and then as time goes, it'll slowly be built. If you're building a mammoth tank and you run out of money, the production queue just halts and it waits till you get money again, then it continues. So with production so fast, with units dying the same speed or slower than StarCraft, with Tiberium getting removed faster, which means you need to expand more, and the actual build queues that are going on without needing to wait for a threshold, and fighting over all of the neutral buildings like Tiberium spikes on the map, I feel like I'm microing my macro. Does it make any sense? Like in StarCraft, right? A standard Terran Marine can basically kill anything with enough volume or enough time. Hell, a crap load of Terran Marines is a major strategy in StarCraft because you put them somewhere and they'll kill anything. In Command & Conquer, some fights just won't go anywhere. A Predator tank versus Rifleman squad, tank isn't built for this squad. It'll kill them before the Rifleman squad does because the Rifleman squad does no damage against tanks, but it'll take forever. So having the right tool for the job is important, but it doesn't mean there's no micro either. One, you can make formations, which is the coolest thing ever, but also you can tell them to move backwards. You can have them reverse. Pitbulls can move backwards and fire rockets at aircraft chasing them down. This is an option. This is an opportunity. That tank may not be able to kill that Rifleman squad, but it can run it over. And so when your opponent sees tanks coming towards his guys, he better get them out of the way or they're just going to crush them. Certain infantry, though, like zone troopers, can't be crushed, at least not by small things. Hell, production times are so fast that even if you lose a massive fight, it's not GG. That's the one thing that I always feel with StarCraft is the moment I lose a major fight, like the big battle, then I have nothing at my base. My production times all take too long. I've lost the game. It's literally over. In Command & Conquer, if you lose the big fight with your opponent, you're still building. In fact, you can even build base defenses as a major part of it. Anti-infantry, anti-tank, or the really big one, the Sonic Emitter, or the very popular one, the Obelisk of Light, which is such a badass building. So despite the fact that your opponent may have won this major fight, you're pumping out infantry, you're pumping out base defenses, you're pumping out stuff. It's not about just winning the fight and you've won. You need to follow up. If you spent so much time microing your units and trying to get rid of your opponent's big army and you've neglected your base, you might not be able to finish the job. And because you've neglected your production queues, guess what? You're on even footing again. That win meant nothing. It just makes the game feel like it's never over until it's over. Resources don't completely deplete. They regrow over time, slowly, but they do it. Harassment techniques like killing harvesters is a popular option, but harvesters can always be rebuilt. Buildings that have been damaged can be repaired just by clicking a button, but it costs you money to repair things. Hell, the use of multiple strike avenues, I feel like is such an important part
where I put my
of Command & Conquer. Because you can have your big force, right? Your infantry, your tanks, your walkers, all the big stuff, and you just move that force into your opponent. The big fighting force, you know? Classic ground war. But why have just this big frontline force without some aircraft support? Hell, get some Firehawk gunships and send them around the corner to bomb some of their important buildings, maybe like a power plant or something. If you're out of power, you don't get a mini map. If you're out of power, your base defense is shut down. So now you've got this giant front force, and then you've got aircraft. But what about more? What's some harassment techniques? Go kill their harvesters. You got this big battle in the front, micro some units in the back. Throw flame tanks in there to burn their refineries up. Send maybe even an engineer to steal one if you can get away with it. Bring in attack bikes, because attack bikes are so annoying, and use them to kill all their harvesters off. So even if they do win the fight, you've killed their economy. So now you've got big front force, aircraft, harassment. Why not that cherry on the sundae? Bring in your commando. There's an old saying, the deadliest weapon in the world is a Marine and his rifle. Commando is the embodiment of that saying. A commando is very small, not too squishy, but squishy enough, but he shreds infantry. He just mows them down at 1200 RPM, and no infantry can stand a chance against him. But he can die pretty quickly to maybe some aircraft or something if he's out of position. That's why he's small. However, if he reaches a building, well, one commando can destroy an entire base. Once he's in there, once he's in and sabotaging your stuff and planting his bombs, one commando can destroy your entire base and ruin everything for you. Once you hear that beautiful and everything just explodes, then there's problems. The game will even tell you enemy commando detected to make it very clear that there's someone there. So frontline force, aircraft support, harvester harassment, and a commando in their back lines blowing their shit up. And you're telling me this isn't one of the best RTSs ever made. It's so much fucking fun. And then you have all the support powers on the side of your screen, things like anti-aircraft and orbital strikes, and you've got like Tiberium catalyst missiles and radar jammers, and you can spawn a mothership, and oh, let's not even forget to talk about the super weapons, ion cannons, nuclear
super weapons are
missiles,
cool as
a
fuck.
black hole, all this shit coming together in a crazy amount of fun, an awesome game, and EA decided to tear it to the ground and completely stop making any of this shit. And the RTS genre is dead. Red Alert 3, if I'm not mistaken, is not running wonderful on PC. I think it's got problems with matchmaking, or if there even is any. And then the game after Kane's Wrath, Command & Conquer 4, Tiberium Twilight, and it fucking sucked. It was some of the worst RTSs I've ever played. It was genuinely terrible, and I think this is like a good
people
metric
really
of the
didn't like that
slow
one.
decline.
You
of
can't even
EA's
play that game
flow.
anymore.
Kane's Wrath right now, it works. You can play with people. It's in 30 FPS, unfortunately, which really sucks, but an HD remake with 60 frames per second, throw that thing on PC again. Just EA, I know you're lazy. I know you guys want the lowest amount of effort possible. Just update that. I don't care. I want this back in the world so I can watch more tournaments and stuff. In fact, there's still some of that going on right now. There is a channel I've been watching a lot lately for this video. It's called Cybert CNC Caster. He casts pro Command & Conquer Kane's Wrath games as well as some Red Alert stuff, but the Kane's Wrath stuff is immaculate. It is so entertaining to watch, and it's so exciting, and the thought that this could come back is just... I know it won't, because of course it won't, and I'm just a guy. Oh my god, it's so entertaining. It's so good. It's so good to watch. I'll leave his channel in the description. Check it out. It's true peak Command & Conquer content. So much love in this game. So much polish, so much care put into it. I didn't even mention the 4X mode. There's a mode like Global Conquest where you have like a 4X elements and then you do the fight. Like it's just there. It's so good.
I didn't know that.
I've made myself sad. Hopefully one day we'll make our way back. Until then, we got to deal with, what was that mobile game they made? Oh god, Kane's Wrath. I think you need to buy Tiberium Wars first and then buy the expansion if you want to play it on Steam. I don't want people to buy it because, you know, EA, but it's such an enjoyable experience. Oh, it's so much fun. I'm torn. Cognitive dissonance is holding two opposing ideals simultaneously. My ideals, giving EA money, more people playing Command & Conquer. I can't parse. It was a cornerstone of my middle school and high school time, and I absolutely love it, and I wanted to gush about it, and I goddamn did it, and I'm proud of it. And that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my beautiful patrons over at patreon.com/Bricky. You are immaculate people, really helping me out. Love seeing it. And let me read a couple of your questions now. I'm sure they're just going to be dumb. Are you from the gunnery decks? Oh, that's good. Okay, I like that one. Why is California the worst state? You really going to say this when liquid exists? If you ain't from the gas gang, you ain't packing heat, dog. I hate this fucking channel. Next video will be a Destiny Witch Queen review. Stay tuned.
Come on. Obviously, you're a skater.
It is pure memes. I need to play. I have that game. One day I'll play it. Be me a girl. So. Watch some Age of Empires stuff.
Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video.
Behold, the horde of Genghis Khan approaches.
Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this Civ overview, we're going to be revisiting a classic and taking a look at the Mongols.
You're wondering what I'm doing. I'm slowly trying to paint this fucking helmet.
Now, Mongols are a funny civ for being notoriously strong in two seemingly completely opposite situations. On Arabia, they're one of, if not the most successful feudal rushing civ, and have been for years, with an extremely effective scout rush and more recently a strong Castle Age Steppe Lancer play. They're truly the kings of aggression. At the same time, they're equally feared in especially closed map team games, known for their legendary unique unit and some of the most fun siege in the game. They can get you early and they can get you late. In this video, we're going to break down their bonuses, units, and tech tree to talk about why it all works so well together. Let's check them out.
I got so far.
Starting with the Mongols' team bonus, pretty simply, their scout cavalry along with their allies have +2 line of sight. Now that might sound modest, but is one of the best team bonuses in the game, assuming your allies aren't all American civs. To put it into perspective, a Mongol scout in Dark Age sees over twice as many tiles as a generic one, though with that effect decreasing as you age up. Now those numbers of the total tiles can be slightly misleading, and when scouting, it's the diameter that matters more, so they just uncover the map 44% faster. Still, that means reliably finding starting resources, and from this bonus alone, Mongols always seem to have an intimidating score lead in Dark Age, as you get 10 points for every 1% of the map uncovered, which is theoretically about 100 extra points by 5 minutes in game. In Feudal, it then helps with any raiding you're doing, letting you more easily catch enemy units crossing the map or spotting lone villagers. And again, remember, this is a bonus for your whole team, meaning everyone gets the same benefit. Complementing this, moving on to their civ bonuses, the first related one is that their hunters work 40% faster, cementing Mongols as having one of the best Dark Ages in the game. To roughly ballpark the benefit of this, if we take 2 boar with 8 villagers, Mongols finish up about 51 seconds earlier, getting 18 more food in total due to less food decay. That's not just slightly more food sooner, but 8 villagers in 51 seconds can then be put to work gathering another 130 odd resources, so the bonus is worth, we'll say, a combined 150. If you get a map generation with a rhino and elephant and then push in 4 deer, in that situation you end up combined about 300 resources ahead of a generic civ, doing all of the exact same things you are. Clearly, Mongols are extra incentivized to take all the hunt they can, including pushing deer, which the scouts' extra line of sight can then help make up for. Together, this allows for some crazy fast build orders, and it's getting to the point that 18 or even 17 pop isn't that fast anymore for Mongols, and you can even see 16 or 15 pop scouts at higher levels. That's just on Arabia as well, and this bonus is arguably even more useful on any map that gives extra hunt, as the longer you're using the bonus, the more supercharged it'll end up being. Just these first two bonuses alone cement Mongols as a dangerous scout rushing civ, and if you're trying to pick them up, learning a straightforward 18 pop scout rush is a great place to start. Now once you have your scouts though, Mongols then add another bonus, helping that transition into Castle Age, giving their scout line and steppe lancers 20% more HP in Castle and 30% more HP in Imperial, as of an upcoming patch. Now this has a few implications. First, your existing scouts or light cavalry, if you upgrade them, get more HP, and it's hard to go wrong with that. The Steppe Lancer is then also extra dangerous, with HP helping in both melee situations and against ranged units. They have some nice qualities, such as the ability to stack when attacking buildings or enemy archers thanks to their extra reach, and they deal pretty easily with any feudal units your opponent has if you hit Castle Age first on the back of your hunt bonus. A way you might see this in practice is a 22 villager Dark Age plus another 2 in feudal with some assistance from the market, and then go straight into Steppe Lancers. The first Steppe Lancer can theoretically be out before 14 minutes and handle enemy feudal units pretty easily, leading to some quick Mongol victories. The other major implication of this bonus is for the Mongol Hussar, which then has 30% more HP, offset somewhat by the fact that Mongols are missing the last cavalry armor. The result is that they're actually a little better in melee than usual, taking 14 hits for example compared to the generic Hussar's 12, and against halberdiers missing the last attack upgrade such as Byzantines, they also take an extra hit. So in melee they just come out a little tankier in some situations, while then also saving on the cost of the armor tech. On the flip side, the trade-off is they're worse than usual against ranged units. Against Arbalesters, for example, they take just 20 instead of the usual 24 arrows. An even more stark example is they take just 40 Elite Skirmisher Javelins instead of the usual 95, highlighting how important that last armor upgrade can be. Hussars are still a staple of the Mongol late game, but just don't expect them to do as well as usual against anything ranged, including town centers, castles, and especially skirmishers. Moving on though, the Mongols' final bonus gives another potential Castle Age option, this time increasing their cavalry archer fire rate by 25%. To put this into context, with Thumbring, the crossbow typically reloads a little faster than a generic cavalry archer, which completely flips for Mongols, letting their cavalry archers and Mangudai fire not just faster than crossbows, but over twice as fast as elite skirmishers. We'll talk about the cavalry archer versus Mangudai debate in a moment, but this bonus alone gives them among the best cavalry archers in the game, and is a unit that does see a fair amount of play. That said, they're not the best cavalry archers head-to-head against others, and lose for example against an equal number of Japanese cavalry archers with their +2 attack bonus, and also found they lose against Huns with balanced resources given their discount. Cavalry archers in general are a bit of a personal preference, and some players like them, some don't, but at least you have the option for some above average ones as Mongols, with the implication as well that Mangudai end up firing faster too. So that's the Mongols' bonuses, which leave them perfectly set up for a fast age into scouts, with then a fair amount of flexibility to transition into archers with an eye toward crossbow or cavalry archer, or you have the option to stick with the stable, having 4 different options there, 2 of which have extra HP. Mongols do lack a mid-game eco bonus once
Thank you,
hunt is
Cheap
used
Viewer,
up,
man.
so
I
feel like they
appreciate
slow
it.
down
Look it
a
out
bit,
for me, as
but you
always.
certainly can't accuse them of a lack of options. There's of course another mid-game option we've barely touched on, which is widely considered their strongest late-game unit and one of the best unique units in the game. That, of course, is the Mangudai, so let's take a look at that now. As usual, I recently looked at this unit in a lot more depth, but to give the quick version for overview purposes, it's a bit more expensive and harder to mass variation of the cavalry archer. Now despite the higher cost, their 10 extra HP makes the two fairly well matched in terms of cost efficiency, so the most important differences are hidden at a glance. The main one is first the Mangudai features a bonus against any type of siege. Whether it's enemy mangonels, rams, or trebuchets, Mangudai are often doing 3 to up to 5 times the damage per shot after the elite upgrade. The other major advantage of Mangudai is they have about half the attack delay of cavalry archers, meaning they don't just stand there drawing their bows while the enemy is charging at them, they just fire and are ready to move again. That makes them not just more fun to micro, but even lets them take on an equal number of knights with only minimal losses, assuming you're decent at stop micro and are paying attention to them. If you don't have a hotkey for Stop Micro, that's definitely something to get set up for the next time you play Mongols. In fact, with a bit of micro, most melee units really won't be a problem. Now there are a couple of units to watch out for though. Camels are quick enough and have enough bonus damage to trade effectively, and camel civs in general are a bit of a counter to Mongols all around. Elite skirmishers and genitours are also very cost effective, which shouldn't be a surprise. Now, one word of warning about Mangudai though is you need at least a bit of a group, say 10 units or more, to start to see their effectiveness, and 20 or more is even better. That can make them a bit of a noob trap in early Castle Age, and some might argue all of Castle Age, as you don't just need a castle, but then 26 seconds to train each Mangudai. With one castle, to get to that 20 number I mentioned, you need almost 9 minutes in game. Compare that to 3 archery ranges, which are cheaper than a single castle and can outproduce 2 castles, and you can start to see why players on open maps might prefer going with the regular cavalry archer, or even crossbows first, with Mangudai added in later. In Imperial Age though, Mangudai are the core of the Mongol death ball, adding in something anti-spear and anti-siege to complement their Khazars and Mongols' own siege units. Moving on, we'll stay at the castle, but now let's talk about their unique tags. The first is nomads, and after you research this, any houses that are destroyed don't reduce your population limit. While that's theoretically useful if your base is being destroyed and you're having to rebuild, I'd say the main benefit is on a closed map like Amazon Tunnel or Black Forest, where you might start to run out of farming space that you need to spam Khazar, and this lets you just delete your houses. Their second unique tech is also one that's picked up mostly on relatively closed maps, and that's Drill, letting all Siege Workshop units move 50% faster. Not only is this a ton of fun to play with, having rams, siege onagers, scorpions, and especially siege towers zip around the map, but it mainly ensures your siege isn't slowing down your otherwise highly mobile army. It's not that expensive of a tech either, though it competes for resources directly with the Mangudai and any siege you're trying to make. So it's sometimes reasonable to skip it, especially in 1v1s, though for team games it's generally worth trying to grab. So that's their castle, where we have Mongols entering last minute as a siege powerhouse, on top of their solid stable and cavalry archer options. Next though, let's take a look at their wider tech tree, starting with the archers. There's lots of good things to say about the cavalry archers in particular here, though the problem is the lack of the final armor upgrade. That stops them from being a good Arbalester civ and also makes their cavalry archers somewhat of a glass cannon. But overall, something to work with. As for the lack of hand cannoneer, remember cavalry archers in the Mangudai have a built-in attack bonus against spears, so that's not as big of a deal as it seems. I'd still give them an A-, especially if we include the Mangudai as part of this. Next up, for the infantry, this is not one of the Mongols' strengths. Not only do you lack halberdier, which hurts sometimes against cavalry or camel civs, but their swordsman line is then missing supplies in gambazins, so the champions are also underwhelming. Other than the odd case as counter units, it's not unusual for a Mongol player to build just the one barracks in Dark Age, and then rely on other buildings for the rest of the game. I'd say it's a serviceable, but not great B-. Moving on to cavalry, it's actually a pretty good stable, especially in Castle Age, where 2 of your 4 options have extra HP. That said, you're not just lacking Paladin, but also the final armor upgrade. The HP bonus somewhat makes up for that, and camels are always nice to have in your back pocket against knight civs, but everything here falls off to some degree in the late game. That said, Khazars should still be part of your late game army, and the Feudal Scout Rush in Castle Age Steppe Lancers can absolutely carry you to some easy wins. Overall, I still like it enough for an A-, and I think the Mongol stable is better than it sometimes gets credit for. Next up, for Siege, you have a wide open tech tree other than the Bombard Cannon, with of course Drill giving you the fastest siege in the game. Siege can compete directly with your Mangudai for gold in particular, but in a post-Imperial situation, Mongol Siege is right up there with some of the best, and certainly the most fun siege to use. It gives you an answer to ranged units in particular, which your Mangudai and lower armor Khazars otherwise can struggle against. And I'd say it's an A, not just for how good your options are, but for how they give you exactly what you need as Mongols. Moving on to the Navy, for a civilization not particularly well known for naval success, at least historically, Mongols have a pretty good tech tree, just missing Dry Dock
in the chest right now.
Galleon. The hunt bonus might not initially seem too relevant here, but a quick uptime and finishing your hunt early, as we saw, is worth potentially hundreds of extra resources. So Mongols get out to a great start on water, and even perform pretty solid on hybrid maps like Four Lakes. I'd give them an A- on water early, though the lack of any naval bonuses brings that down to a pretty generic C+ late for a B overall. Taking a quick look at the monks, this is the only part of the tech tree where Mongols fall kind of flat. You're missing a ton of important techs, with Redemption, Sanctity, and Block Printing being the 3 most important for monks in my opinion. A monk in siege combo isn't even that great, considering your siege is completely generic until Imperial Age after drill. A few monks to convert knights, collect relics, or heal Mangudai is perfectly fine, but monks are a C- overall, saved if anything by having herbal medicine for healing Mangudai in castles. Next up, for defenses, you're missing most of the tower-related techs, though Mongols do have fortified walls and masonry. They're really more of a mobility and aggression-focused civilization, so some weaker defenses are probably to be expected. That said, the Mangudai can be a pretty good defensive tool, especially against siege pushes, and protects your castles pretty effectively against rams. It's enough for a C+, but even that might be a stretch. And finally, to finish up with their trash units, that is, units that don't cost gold, their Hussars are technically better in melee, but overall their trash isn't super impressive. You're missing the armor upgrade for skirmishers, you're lacking the halberdier upgrade, and your Hussars are again weaker against enemy skirmishers in particular. The fact Mongol Hussars beat generic Hussars head-to-head isn't nothing, but it's just a B- for me, and Mongols are actually pretty dependent on gold to be effective late. So to close with some final thoughts, again, I think the place to start with Mongols is learning an 18-pop Scout Rush. It's a classic for a reason, and Mongols give you options to either stick with cavalry or transition to archers as you prefer. Archers aren't necessarily a bad play at all, especially if it encourages an opponent to commit to skirmishers, which you can then punish with your stable in Castle Age. Their Castle Age sometimes gets a bad rap for not having an eco bonus, which is a fair point, but between the stable, archery range, and castle, you have a lot of choices, letting you adapt to different situations. I would caution against going straight for Mangudai if you're not in a safe position though, as while we've seen they can be a very effective unit that relies on getting a solid mass of them rolling. Late game, of course, their army composition is often built around them, supported most commonly by Hussar and Siege, with the amount of Siege being
I'm bringing it close because it's just kind of hard to get the small areas.
One of the best Mongols is, I'd say, Mega Random, which is sometimes generous with extra hunt, and your scouting can also come in handy, though obviously any map with more deer or boar is a huge plus, such as Yucatan or Valley. At the same time, they're also a solid pick on Arabia, and very popular on closed map team games, again showing their versatility. Maps I'd be less excited to play Mongols on include Arena or Nomad, with especially Nomad having the potential to nullify not just your scouting bonus, but also your faster hunt. All this talk about faster collected food is making me a little hungry though, and if you are too, make sure to stop by and check out my newest side hustle, a sandwich bar called Spirit of the Lunch. It even has a great website I made in minutes thanks to this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a great-looking website, engage with your audience, and then sell anything, from products to content to time, all in one place. Using one of their templates, you can easily customize a website to your preferred aesthetic, and then sell your product or services.
Ooh,
that can include physical goods
Update again?
or digital content, including access to your own video library, with Squarespace handling the payment side of things so you can focus on the bigger picture. Using the built-in analytic and insight tools, you can then see exactly what's working and what's not, so you can continue to grow and scale your business.
Fucker hates focusing, I swear to God,
Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Spirit of the Law to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Forward default plan. Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Hey guys, Spirit of the Lie here. In this Civ overview, we're going to be taking a look at the Japanese. The last time we looked at the Civ in depth was in 2016, and Japanese have had a few nice changes since then, with samurai and cavalry archer buffs, making them now arguably better than ever. At the same time, stats-wise, especially for 1v1 high-level Arabia, they're really not doing great, so they're a little out of fashion these days, but in my opinion are still among the most fun civilizations to play, and far from the weakest for the majority of the player base, where their focus on flexibility and infantry are a lot more viable than I think they get credit for. We'll go through their bonuses and techs, and then talk about how I like to approach the civilization as my most played Civ. To start with their team bonus, Japanese galleys have 50% more line of sight. Keeping in mind, despite the name, this does not apply to fire galleys. Now 50% is a bigger jump than it sounds, where they see 50% farther, but end up seeing more than twice as much at any one moment. This can be nice for map awareness and having a better idea of other navies' location and size than they have of yours. Japanese are actually a very good water and excellent hybrid map civ, though the team bonus really isn't the reason for that. To see why they're the #1 most popular choice on 4 lakes and many hybrid maps, instead we need to look at their civ bonuses. The first is that their fishing ships have double the usual HP, +2 Pierce armor, and work faster, increasing through the ages as you advance. To take the durability aspect first, this increases the shots they take from galleys with fletching from 6 to 14, as well as double the damage taken from fire galleys. In fact, for a bit of perspective, a fishing ship can complete an entire fishing run in less than the time it takes a galley to bring it down. On a map like Nomad, where you maybe aren't sure how strongly you're contesting water, that durability gives you some extra time to read the game's situation and respond if you're caught off guard. Assuming your fishing ships aren't attacked though, that's even better.
I'm currently working on the Gunga
collection. With 4 fishing ships, this is usually between 10 to 20 to 30 food in Dark Age, and always puts you in a nice position to keep up with villager production, then growing to somewhere between 100 and 150 food ahead of your opponents by Castle Age, with even just 4 fishing ships. If anything though, it becomes more interesting in Imperial Age, when the bonus jumps to a full +20%. At that point, with fish traps, the Japanese bonus slaps, going from the usual 25 food per minute with gill nets to about 30 food per minute. Keep in mind, boring old farms max out at 24, while having a worse food-to-wood ratio, since Japanese lack crop rotation. This gives Japanese fishing ships a nice use case on Black Forest or any map with safe lakes, where you can make a lot more food than usual by using fish traps over farms with the same population in a much smaller area. The flip side of the bonus is on a pure land map, you're effectively playing down one of your major eco bonuses, though you still have one, next up with their camps and mills costing 50% less. This has the greatest impact early on, saving you 200 wood if you get the standard 2 lumber camps, 1 mill, and a mining camp. In terms of total resources, it's one of the best Dark Age bonuses in the game, and what's nice is you don't have to do anything different than usual to benefit. One common way to maximize the bonus is to move one early villager from wood over to food, helping with a faster uptime to feudal, leading to a strong scout, men-at-arms, or archer opening. That said, typically by the mid-game, players use town centers instead of camps to secure additional resources, and wood also becomes quite easy to get past a point. So while it's theoretically still useful in Imperial Age when saturating mines or replacing lumber camps, it's definitely not as impactful after the early game power spike that it gives. That brings us now though to what you can spend those extra resources on with their military bonuses. The first is Japanese infantry attack 33%.
Dude, I never thought about this, but like I could just turn it like this when I'm
Naturally,
painting.
this makes their men-at-arms among the most dangerous against enemy scouts, villagers, or at breaking through buildings, which is the main application of the bonus in competitive 1v1. That said, it really opens up options throughout the game, with Japanese longswords being able to trade cost-effectively against knights, and faster attack on pikemen, making them arguably the most anti-cavalry spear line in the game, as you get their bonus damage applying more often. In Imperial Age, especially team games, their champions and halberdiers can then also shine, and while your infantry can lose in a vacuum to the Goth Strong Discount or Slav Druzhna, on the list of classic blunders, going head-to-head with Japanese infantry is number 4, purely because of this bonus. It's no surprise a lot of Japanese best matchups feature civilizations that have a higher likelihood of using infantry, like Goths or Aztecs. Their other military bonus is a relatively new one, giving their cavalry archers +2 attack against archers, though not including skirmishers. Cavalry archers are a very on-meta unit these days, and especially with this bonus are now a great option to shoot for in late Castle Age depending on the civ matchup. Unfortunately, they still have the same weakness to skirmisher units as usual, but it helps in many other situations. First, they hold up very well against other cavalry archers, who count as archers in this case, beating other top tier ones head to head, which is very nice in, as I said, a cavalry archer heavy meta. The definition here of archer is then very broad, applying to not just archer and cavalry archer variants, but even things like the Wrath in melee mode, camo archers, hand cannons, and slingers, for example. Probably the most important matchup though is they do a third more damage against the crossbow line, translating to 1 fewer attack needed against those. On one level, you could argue they at least soft counter crossbows in Castle Age, though admittedly are much harder to get going because of all the important upgrades, 1 less range, slower creation time, higher cost, and a longer attack delay, which hurts your micro. I wouldn't say this new bonus makes Japanese an anti-archer pick or forces you to go into cavalry archers, but does make the transition from early Castle Age
Just
crossbows
comparing the two
into
little
cavalry
dudes.
archers easier against a civ like Mayans or Britons. And given the number of units it applies to, it's a bonus that comes up even if you don't go out of your way to use it. So those are their bonuses, hitting on water maps, early eco, infantry, and cavalry archers. If it's not obvious yet, Japanese have a bit of a jack-of-all-trades vibe going on. Next, we'll take a look at their unique unit, the Samurai. As always, I recently looked at this unit in extra depth as its own video, but for summary overview purposes, they're not that far off the swordsman line in terms of stats, with a notably faster attack and movement. On the flip side, they're more expensive in terms of gold and even food after supplies than the longsword, and have one less pierce armor after gambesons, so there are some trade-offs. In terms of bonuses, they deal plus 10 growing to plus 12 against unique units, which includes any made from a castle, dock, or is a standalone unit, like Condottiero, Slinger, or Geniteur, which don't upgrade something already existing in the tech tree. Even outside that specialty, Samurai are generally solid in melee situations, particularly when countering melee unique units, but can even take a fight against knights cost-effectively. They also work as an anti-trash generalist well enough, even if the Japanese champion line is a bit more gold efficient in that role. And they're also very effective at defending castles against rams, given their just 9-second creation time. On the other hand, like most infantry, they're weak to ranged units, even ranged unique units, while having a relatively high gold cost for infantry. Overall, they're situational, but they can be a faster tech switch than the champion line, are surprisingly fast at raising buildings, and are a great tool for countering Goths, though by no means are a default unit choice for Japanese in 1v1s. Stick to using them in the right situations against melee units or buildings, and they'll treat you well. Staying at the castle, next let's take a look at their unique techs. The first is Yasuma, which adds 2 extra arrows to all of your towers. And while Japanese lack Bombard Tower, this can make your keeps maybe even better than those anyway. Depending on a target's armor, you can get about half the damage of a castle and 2/3 the attack of a Bombard Tower over time. Though considering the high rate of fire and less overkill, I personally think there are situations they work better than Bombard Towers, while also not costing gold and being much less stone than castles for the same map coverage. Most typically, they're used defensively to deter enemy raiding, but can also be used offensively to entrench a slow push, especially on team. Maybe the one downside is it comes at the stone cost of potential castles, and building too many towers can then make it harder to produce trebuchets. Why would you be so concerned about that? Well, Japanese have the most fun trebuchets in the game, of course. Their next unique tech, Katapuruto, lets their trebuchets pack in a quarter the usual time and fire a third faster. It's not that expensive, but takes a full minute to research, so maybe it won't be the first tech you grab in Imperial. But if you've used these, you know how fun they are, adding some surprising mobility to your army. In mass, they can be used as a relatively effective area attack, especially against onagers and bombard cannons, then being able to quickly pack up and retreat. But even without the mobility aspect, they still take down castles, enemy trebs, and buildings a third faster. So that's their unique unit and techs. Part of why I love the Civ is first the bonuses include Navy and Cavalry Archers, the unique unit is Infantry, and the unique techs then push towers and Siege. Someone might say the Civ feels a bit all over the place, whereas I see it as endless possibilities, and admittedly you either like that aspect of them or you don't. They still have a few surprise strengths left in store though, which we'll find in the tech tree, starting with the Archers. Here you have basically everything, including the extra wood savings early, bonus damage for their fully upgraded cavalry archers, and you even get hand cannoneers as an option late. The only issue is just that you don't have a direct bonus for the crossbow line, so very strong crossbow civs can outcompete Japanese head-to-head, but with this kind of tech tree, it's still a very solid A-. Next up for infantry, it's again a broad tech tree, and in addition to the faster attack rate bonus applying from Feudal Age onward, you also have the Samurai as an augment in some situations. I'm gonna save the A+ level for Goths, and stick with just an A, but Japanese are definitely up there with other top tier infantry, and their halberdiers are a go-to late game unit. Moving on to cavalry, I feel like it gets a worse rap than it deserves. You have a great scout rush with 150 to 200 wooden savings, with then fully upgraded Castle Age Knights. A stable in late feudal or on the way up to Castle Age is not a bad plan with Japanese, particularly if you're up against a lot of skirmishers, which either scouts or even better 1 or 2 knights can help clean up. Late game, they fall off hard though, lacking the final armor, and their light cavalry raids really aren't that great. Overall, I'd say it's a B, acknowledging Imperial Age is a notable weakness here. Next up for Siege, you have the basics, but lack Siege Ram and Bombard Cannon, leaving the workshop feeling below average. Though if you add in their trebuchets, I think it brings them back up to a reasonable B-. Catapruto doesn't come in as often as I'd like in 1v1s, but if you can get there, it's a lot of fun. Moving on to the Navy, you get out to a fantastic start with the wood savings on camps, plus the fishing ships have more durability and faster collection rate. I don't put a lot of stock into the team bonus, but overall think it's an A when opening on water or on hybrid maps. Late game, you're missing the heavy demo ship, but the real issue is just that you don't have an impactful bonus. Despite an open tech tree, I actually think they drop down to a B+ on water late, propped up a bit by excellent fish traps, for an A- on water overall. As for the monks, it's again a really good tech tree, and this is an aspect of the Civ that hasn't come up yet. There's no direct bonus, but Japanese have very solid monks, featuring the combo of redemption and block printing, helping you snag enemy siege from long range. I like it enough for an A-. Next up for defenses, you're missing a few things at the university, though I think that's more than made up for by the unique tech Yasuma, which I see as making their keeps a legitimate replacement for Bombard Towers at a cheaper cost. While in the early game you don't have anything to help defensively outside of more fishing ship HP, I'd still say it's an A- overall. A well set up Japanese player turtling can be very hard to push at times without Bombard Cannons. And finally, for their trash units, the Halberdiers are an A+, and the Skirmishers are a B, but the Light Cavalry are a C. The lack of a strong raiding unit can be a pretty big disadvantage, to the point I've seen players roll with Halberdiers as their raiding unit in a pinch. Still, the American civs can get by with worse, and I'll say it's a B- for trash. So to close with some final thoughts on strategy, the beauty of their large wood savings early is you have a lot of choice in how to open, with nothing in the early tech tree leading into a dead end. Man-at-Arms is a less common opening these days in general, but Japanese still do it well, either paired with towers or followed up with archers. Given the predictability of that though, it's not uncommon for Japanese players to try mixing things up and open with scouts, and moving a villager from wood to food early can help a lot with competitive feudal time. You also see just a straight archery range opening as well, commonly with a stable follow-up at some point.
I now need to do the
mass your opponent will often try to counter with. Generally, those quick decisive games are the high point for Japanese, after which they can definitely struggle, though not for lack of options. In the mid-game,
I had to do the black.
Archers and
I put on black.
later transitioning into Cavalry Archer is the most straightforward default plan if you're playing into the meta and looking to benefit from their newer bonus. But Scouts into Knights, and even their good Monks, as we saw, can be mixed in as well. Alternately, you can just embrace
the update.
Siege, which in mid-elo I think is written off more than it should be. I'm not saying to do all of these compositions in the same game, of course, but a lot of the Japanese strength is in playing off multiple types of units and transitions. Moving into Imperial Age, fully upgraded cavalry archers are always a popular choice, but infantry paired with any ranged unit in Siege tends to be well-rounded, while especially in team games, towers can also be a unique way to contribute and help with map control. As for good maps, while they're okay-ish on Arabia, for understandable reasons they tend to be more popular and have greater success on Four Lakes or similar maps with fishing, making them also a solid pick on Nomad. Personally, I love the variety they bring to the table, making them one of, if not outright, my favorite civs still today. Speaking of which, if you're interested in following my AW2 fan blog, where I talk more about my favorite civilizations, units, and heroes, be sure to check out my new website, Spirit of the Lahir. It took me just minutes to set up and start creating content on, thanks to this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online.
Let's watch some StarCraft. I like StarCraft.
Hey guys, welcome back to Artosis Cast. Hope you're having a nice day here today. We're continuing to take a look at what type of shape Cal is in right now. This is Cal in the top left, one of the 6 dragons. And he is going up here against Jaedong. So, I mean, that's a great match. You know, they're both kind of from that same era. Obviously, Jaedong was much better back then. He's probably going to win this, is my guess. Jaedong is in very good shape right now. It's kind of funny because people act like he's not. And that's just because our memories of Jaedong are of him literally dominating the world and beating everybody and winning tons of tournaments. Whereas it's like, well, he was the 3rd most successful Zerg in the last season. It's like, he's washed up. How unfair is that? How unfair is that? It's so ridiculous. Like, the times have changed so much, and even the style he used to play, like, doesn't fit in today's modern metagame as well. And he's still the third best performing Zerg last season. But people think he's washed up. Man, really set the bar high for himself there, didn't he? So anyways, here he is with a pull first. That's a 9 pull right there. And he's going to do the extractor trick as well. Looking over at Cal's side of the map, looks like he's just going to go ahead and throw down a forge and get his scouting done. So he'll see this coming and be able to put his cannons up, so he should be completely fine. I don't think any real damage will occur. Here comes the probe, sees the drone leaving. Doesn't see a hatch, still got to check. And there we go. He'll go over and see the exact timing of this and like, oh, there we go. Zerglings. I would imagine he'll do the double cannon. That's generally what you do in this type of situation. Because if it is 6lings, 1 cannon, they can definitely either kill or run by. Probe just going to harass a little bit. Throws down that Nexus first. And where does Probe go? It's over here. Okay, so he sees that it is 6lings that pop. There's 1. Is he going to try to hold this with 1? The thing is, what he might do is 1, throw a gateway down, and then bring like 4 or 5 probes. Because yeah, it has to be like that. Or maybe he feels like he can do it with 2 probes. This is like as peak greed as you can get. But I guess he has it timed out better than me, that's for sure. I thought he'd need more than that. Maybe it's just because it's cross spawn here. If this was close spawn, he would have been there like 5 seconds ago and would have easily killed these probes and run past, but perfectly timed out from Cal. So, well done, Cal. My bad, man. And look, he's... Ah! That's funny. He almost got extra probes, extra SCVs in, or, God, I can't even speak. Extra Zerglings in, but Cal had pulled down another probe to block. I guess assuming that this was going to occur. That was actually a very good read. Very exacting defense from Cal, which, of course, is incredibly important in this matchup. So the probe doing a little bit of harass. Does take some hull damage there. Back at Cal's base. Zealot on the way. Third base for Jaedong. And Cal just trying to keep this probe alive. Needs to check, like, okay, are you going to go lair? Are you going to go Hydralisk Den? Really important to find that out, and that's going to be a lair. So as the probe goes by, going to be feeling a lot safer and better about his position here, I think. Obviously this would not have been a great game based on what's happened so far for a Hydralisk rush. Probably wants the game to go a little bit bigger. Zergling speed on the way here for Jaedong. So that does point towards a Spire coming up. Wow. Good glitch there from Cal. Damn. He was on top of that. That was about to die. And it was still will, but hey, he prolonged it just a little bit. Some more lings coming up. Cal should be fine, though. Has a couple Zealots coming over to this base. Really great little pocket for the Zealot to sit in. It's going to be really annoying to clear. Other Zealot turning around. Jaedong here with 8 Speedlings. I think you just have to go clear it. You just have to... Yeah. Not being super efficient with his micro here. You can actually save some lings there and have everything kind of be at like 1 health, but yeah, it doesn't quite opt for that. Spire on the way. Triple Zealot coming down. Kind of split up, though. Definitely feels like these should be closer to each other. Otherwise, the surround happens like that too quickly. Ouch. Little bit of sloppiness there from Cal. Something kind of on board with what we've seen so far.
Fuck.
Takes a little bit to tighten everything up.
I took my gun a little bit.
That's for sure. Additional macro hatch. That Spire's still coming up. 2 Zealots did do kind of a sneaky run around here. Looks like Jaedong wasn't really aware of them. Oh, good block on the ramp, and Cal was just on a move command. Yeah, that's going to get cleared a little bit too quickly. Oh. Hey, he gets the drone through the mineral patch. It's really nice. So, yeah, I would say okay harassment there from Cal so far. Additional hatchery gets started by Jaedong. Plus Carapace, plus Flyer Carapace here on Jaedong's side. So, looks like he should be going into Mutalisks. Of course, we don't see a Hydra's Den or an Evolution Chamber yet, so that kind of points towards it as well. Gonna just open up with those 4 Scourge to make sure the Corsairs stay in his opponent's base. Does have 2 on top of this Nexus already. We don't see any mineral line defensive cannons here. We do see one here, and that'll also block the Stargate, so that's pretty nice. But it feels to me like Jaedong has some real potential at the moment. Like, okay, he's making 5. Let's see if he makes more than that. It's, of course, 5, you know, going to one-shot a probe, so it's a great number. It's like 1 is an okay number, I think. 5 is a great number, and then more than 5 is okay. But like 4, 3, 2 are all absolute garbage numbers. They don't mean anything or do anything. So a few more Lings have come out as well. Scourge rotating back. Couple DTs coming up to the front. He does have detection everywhere at the moment. Oh, good surround. Picks off both those DTs. And there's that Hydra's Den. So, it's kind of a funny looking game right now. I feel like the Flyer Carapace was a bit late. Like, Cal has had +1 Flyer attack for quite some time, and it doesn't seem like you can really do anything until that Carapace upgrade's done. And it's still actually quite a ways off. Now, an Archon and some Zealots walking out. +1 is already done, and we have Zealot legs almost done here as well. Now, he's going to fly in and get a couple probes. Okay, the Scourge actually do get a kill there, but he ends up losing a Mutalisk, so that's a little bit rough. You can see he took a lot of damage very, very quickly there. Hydras are starting to be macroed out as well. You know, the Flyer Carapace, it'll still be useful later on, by the way. It's not like the end of the world because it seems a little bit slow and he's not really able to battle. It doesn't seem like his plan was ever to make, like, mass mutas like Ogres or Gamer and just fly in and try to kill Cal off. Seems like it's just kind of like, yeah, you know, they're doing a little bit. They're helping a little bit here and there. It did get him to make an Archon, which is kind of nice. Not that the Archon is necessarily bad, but Archons don't do well against Hydras, and obviously Psystorms really, really, really do. He is killing a few Overlords because of this as well. Jaedong, though, at the moment is up in workers. 6 gates only for Cal. Robo on the way. Psystorm on the way. Plus Carapace, or plus armor on the way, right?
It's so watery. Oh.
Ah, 20 health left. The Flyer Carapace, man. There you go. Saving an Overlord. All right, a lot of Overlords going towards that main base. Getting them out of the way in case we haven't engaged down here, I guess. Oh, and now the Mutas actually having their real value. They do force another Archon morph, which, you know, is good. It's like getting 2 High Tumblers, kind of. Good micro there from Cal. Able to chase down a lot of these Mutalisks. Good split, though, from Jaedong.
The music actually is working pretty well for painting.
All right, the Hydra's starting to come out of the space for Jaedong. He has quite a few at the moment. You notice his supply is getting very, very close to Cal's right now. I like that Cal is taking this high ground base. Definitely needs these cannons. The cannon's actually going to be a little bit crucial because his Psystorm count's going to be low. He's made 2 Archons already this game. A lot of Zealots in here, so I think he should be able to hold this. The cannons warp in, he gets a couple Psystorms. Yeah, you get 1 good Psystorm on here. Yeah, just like that. Very, very good one. Good second one as well. Fighting a little bit far forward. Wouldn't mind seeing him pull back a little bit here. It feels like Jaedong does have enough Hydras to maybe micro back a little bit more. Pops both of those Archons. Not really microing that left side all that much. A lot more Hydras coming up here as well. Yeah, I feel like he just should have pulled back a little bit earlier into the cannons. Like, as the cannons were finishing, pull that army back slightly. And if Jaedong wants to continue fighting, then you get the extra DPS from those cannons.
Update.
Okay, more gateways on the way.
Got
if
the
Cal
gun
can
colored.
stabilize this and not die right now,
Need to add the white.
it could be a really interesting game because Jaedong hasn't taken a 4th. One thing that's really
I am
funny
going to
here is like
a little
look
bit
at
of
how
it
big that
with some
Dragoon
blue
range
because
is.
I
he
popped
did
up
all
in
this
some
off of
areas.
less
Just
gates and
a
stuff. Like
this
was
is tiny
being
bit, not like a
a
lot.
pretty quick third base, and he's very mineral heavy right now, going up to 10 gates at this point. But his Zealots are going to have to do a lot more heavy lifting than they normally do this late into the game, which does make me a little bit nervous for him. Now we have an Observer there to see these 3 Lurkers. The Lurkers obviously can add incredible damage to a group of Zealots running down. Ooh, this is a good push from Jaedong. Like, it's so hard to engage his Hydras that are picking off the wall because of those Lurkers. Dodging some of the Psystorms as well. Cal having a very hard time at the moment. Right, he uses a couple Storms, then makes the Archon as well. So this is Cal trying to maximize the amount of damage output that he has. Still only Zealots being made. Some pretty good Psystorms do hit, but the 3 Lurkers are really going to cause a problem for these Zealots. As you can see, just dealing hundreds and hundreds of damage in this splash line. Wow. I gotta say, from Jaedong, this was like a technical attack. The way he did this with so few Lurkers and then just kind of dodged around and baited into the Lurker spines. Like, without those 3 Lurkers, there's not a chance on Earth that he actually breaks through here. But just did so much damage, that super Zealot heavy play, which, you know, this was not a normal looking PvZ by any means. You can definitely see Cal is playing a different brand of Protoss here. And I would suggest that, you know, let me know what you think about the kind of styles that we've seen. These are going to be the 3 Cal games I do for now. We'll definitely check back in on him at a later time if there's some good games that pop up or against some good players that look interesting. But just because it's not how other people play doesn't mean he can't refine it and make it work still. You know, StarCraft still has a lot of room for making new ways to play. That's something that we've seen time and time again. So, kind of an interesting one. You know, Cal does end up losing all these matches, but they're against really, really strong players. Jaedong taking him down here. Thank you for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time. Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to Artosis Cast. Welcome back. Hope you're having a nice day here today, and I hope it's about to get a little bit better because we're going to watch a Bisu Protoss versus Zerg. Yesterday, if you happen to tune in, we had Ruin going up against True, 2 of our best and strongest up-and-coming players. I would definitely still consider both of them as such, even though they've been pros for many, many years. But of course, Bisu, kind of the golden standard for Protoss versus Zerg. Now, yesterday I mentioned that I felt like Ruin was playing in a style
the
that
painting?
was reminiscent of Bisou. It looked Bisou inspired. It, you know, obviously
sorry, I
everyone
didn't see you
has a
type, but
variety
this
of
is
styles
how
that
it
they
looks
can
so
use, or
far.
most people do, at least.
Just got done with the
Bisou
shoulders.
amongst them. But yeah,
Got most of the
it
painting
felt
done.
like
Gonna add some
kind of
shadowing.
Bisou's
I'm
play
just
with
gonna
the
do a
heavier
little coat
Corsairs,
over it
keeping
right
the
now.
Eyeball game, the double expanding to 4 bases right away, that type of thing. That's something I see Bisou do a fair amount of time. So that was kind of fun, and I saw, you know what? Here's a Bisou PVZ, and it's actually against someone that I really want to see some more games of, so that's perfect. So who is that someone I really want to see some more games of? This here is Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui is the strongest Zerg outside of Korea. He is a Chinese Zerg player. We've cast him on the channel many, many times. He has extremely high MMR. In fact, he made the top 4 of ACS, which is the first time any non-Korean has ever done that. He basically dethroned Mihu. I think a lot of people are more familiar with Mihu, who has been for many years the best Chinese player. But yeah, Mihu
Gotta learn, man.
no longer wins every tournament in China. Xiao Shui basically does. He's been crushing everything. He's been beating Mihu in those tournaments. And in fact, I think his Zerg vs Protoss is even better than his Zerg vs Terran. He's a very aggressive Zerg in
I don't know why the
general.
camera does that.
So I think that this will be a fun
It's
one
fucking
to see how
annoying,
he's
man.
going to fare against Bisou. And just one final word on that, like, people ask a lot, okay, is there ever going to be a non-Korean player in SSL? And I've always believed that we will eventually see non-Korean players qualify, but it takes a very long time and a very dedicated and talented player. And so people have asked, like, okay, well, who would it be? Who would it be? There's only 3 players that I think have a shot anytime in the near future. And that would be DeWalt, Xiao Shui, and Mihu. And I think the least likely of all those is Mihu. I think DeWalt and Xiao Shui are the 2 players that actually are going to have a shot in the coming years of possibly getting into SSL. Now that, you know, it might never happen. You can let me know your thoughts on that, you know, in the comments and everything. But I believe these guys are working hard. They're very talented. And they play the right type of style where they can maximize how good they get. And I can talk more about that in a second, but we actually have Bisou putting on some pretty heavy zealot pressure. This is an issue. There's a lot of lings being forced. I think he's gonna force a cancel on this hatch. Like, that's just too much pressure. Dude, it's wild. Like, Xiao Shui is very good, wins lots of tournaments. And here Bisou is casually canceling his hatchery. And look at this, he's like chasing the drone down as well. Damn. Just good play. Now, Bisou pulling back with the other 2 zealots as we have lings going for a counterattack. The drone does get caught. Bisou kind of corners it and gets it killed. A lot more lings on the way. This is going to be kind of interesting. Does Bisou continue to pressure? Because there's so many lings being made. If he were not to continue to pressure, this would be terrible for Xiao Shui. Xiao Shui, because he's making so many lings, needs Bisou to attack him so he gets these 2 zealots. If these zealots just suddenly went home, and suddenly he has 4 zealots against someone who's made like no drones, how do you even play this game as Xiao Shui? It would be terrible. But here he's going to get these 2 zealots basically for free based on the amount of lings that he's actually made. Great surround there as well. So he kills all that off very efficiently. He has a lot of Zerglings, but you're not gonna be able to break through Bisou here. He brings his zealots out to deal some damage to these lings. His probe still going around for a scout. Zergling speed on the way. This is going to be a Hydralisk den, 100%. Yeah, you have, like, he is an aggressive player anyways, but you have to stay aggressive here. The drone count is just too pitiful. You know, you've made this many Zerglings. Obviously, a pure Zergling bust is not going to work against Bisou. He's already got a lot of zealots. He's already got a cannon. He's keeping an eye on everything. You're going to have to do something like a Ling Hydralisk all-in. Now, I do wonder if this could possibly be one of those ranged Hydralisk rushes. And there it is. Range. That's awesome. So, this is a more modern Hydra bust. It came out a year and a half ago.
I'm gonna put a little bit more bronze, and then I'm gonna go to the shadow.
Pop-up. It's not super popular, but everyone's used it some. And I'm sure every Protoss has lost against it some. So it's like Zergling speed. And then you generally make 6 Hydralisks with the range upgrade first. And the 6 Hydralisks gun down the
DVR
wall,
looking
and
alive,
the
in
Zerglings
what
just
way?
flood in and kill everything. And obviously at that point, the Hydrals can run up and help deal damage to the cannons and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a strong
little
strat, and I think
needle
it
of death.
plays very well based on how these openings have gone. So some Hydras over here, and that range upgrade's still coming. We'll see if he makes well, exactly how many he makes. Like I said, it's normally 5. I've seen 6. I don't think I ever see 7. And you definitely never see 4. So, hold on. How many does he have? 4. Oh, there's the Overlord he was waiting for. Oh, he's making a lot more. Oh, and he's getting speed too. You know, I think what has happened here, because he did get the range first. So I do think I was right, is he wanted to go for the range. But
well, it's still not like dead, but like there's still like 2 lobbies going, you know, constantly.
Bisu just kills this hatchery, and then if he holds, he wins. Okay, so
it's just the niche now, you know.
Like, well,
you like certain things of that game, you can't play them because it's not consistently up.
On hold position. Now, Bisu is just standing there because one Hydra will take 100 years to kill all these zealots. And this is buying him a lot of time. Whereas if he comes out, the Zerglings will get really great surface area.
And there's drama and everything.
Not long at all, rather, to kill them.
If people are babies, then there's drama.
So he actually gets a Hydra there, which is pretty big. And as you can see, as the Zerglings surround, they have no chance.
I mean, that's what you do when you don't have a job and stuff like that. You just kind of like, when you don't have like, what's it called? Better things to do. Then like, you know, you just make problems. It's just the thing of like lack of maturity.
Templar Archives coming
I get it.
I think there's a fair chance he'll try to kill this Overlord. And
I don't blame them for it. I just blame the lack of maturity.
I don't know if he'll actually end up getting it. There is a supply block at the moment. And here we go. Xiao Shui going to try to break through. The cannons are like, I'm surprised how few cannons he has based on seeing those Hydralisks. It's kind of surprising. The Zealot's coming up and actually doing an okay job, and he is going to be able to kill the Overlord. That was actually a key moment, I think, because I think we'll see him make a DT next. Yeah, the DT gets started immediately. It's actually starting this gateway,
play
which
games.
has potential to
It's unfortunate, man. I'm sorry to hear.
Maybe not the best gateway to make it out of. Xiao Shui actually continues to push up. Bisu is losing a few probes here. Now, he can lose a few probes without losing this game because the drone count is, like, minuscule. He has almost no economy back home. So there's still a chance here. Bisu continually pulling the probes to fight. Cannons finishing up. And, in fact, the DT is going to be what cleans this. Xiao Shui has almost broken through everything. He's killed a lot of cannons. He's killed a lot of DTs. This DT pops out. That's funny. I think it was like rally back here and then it got stuck. But yeah, the DTs are going to have to go hard on these Hydras. He can't be losing all these buildings. I don't know. Is there... Yeah, a couple Overlords kind of being sent up. The Corsair is going to make sure nothing really makes it. So much damage being dealt. Cannot lose this Nexus. Oh my god, so much damage is being dealt here. It's absolutely insane. Now, the DT, because it does have that +1, is two-shotting all the Hydras, which is nice. They get an instant point of heal, so if you don't have the +1, it takes 3 shots to kill a Hydra, and he actually probably would have ended up losing the Nexus.
You can use your phone as a cam if you don't want the blur all the time.
He
yeah,
but
then it's going to be on the Wi-Fi and...
The position now...
Pain in my ass, man. I probably should, though.
Than it was. Way better tech for Bisu, but no real army to speak of. His economy is pretty weak as well at just 30 workers. Obviously, this economy is still very weak at 22, but with 4 hatcheries, you can drone up really quickly. The thing is, he's still making Hydras, and he did just get that layer, so like maybe we'll see him go into, you know, speed for Overlords to try to stop these DTs from wreaking any more havoc. Maybe he wants to do another attack before he thinks Psystorm can be finished. There is the speed upgrade. Couple more gates on the way, so that's going to bring him up to 4 gateways. Psystorm being researched. 2 High Templars. 3 High Templars going to be made. Hydras run up. Oh my god, it's only 2 cannons. Dude, this is wild. I mean, you don't want to undermake cannons. Oh, God. Oh, my God. He's going to get the Nexus. You don't want to undermake cannons or overmake cannons. It's a tough thing, and obviously Bisu was a little bit late on his cannons early on. These 4 DTs, by the way, just wiping absolutely everything. But he's lost his Nexus. Okay, if you are going to win from here as Bisu, first off, there's no one base economy attack he can do to win. To win, he needs to remake this Nexus. He has Psystorm finishing, so he needs Xiaoshui to keep making units and attacking. Because if Xiaoshui only went into drones from here, if he just went up to like 44 drones and defended, Bisu has no real comeback potential. But the thing is, Xiaoshui is playing against Bisu. He's very close to winning, and he's going to try to kill him. You know, sometimes aggressive players, they got this mentality. It's why they're good, and it's also why they're bad. You know, your greatest strength is your greatest weakness. And as soon as that's not the case, you're a champion. Think about that for a minute. What's Flash's weakness? What's Sulky's weakness? Everyone else I can name this stuff for the most part, you know? Anyways, here come those Hydras. He's going to try to kill him here. But with all this Psystorm, like I said, this is actually what you need to be able to win this game as Bisu, is you need him making units, and then you need to crush them. And he's mostly doing that here. The Hydras are forced back. Just enough cannons. Nexus finishes. Bisu still has a worker advantage. Lots of drones going up now. And you can see no real value gained. He spent a ton on Hydras. Got stormed all to hell. Yeah, he killed a few buildings. Yeah, he forced an Archon. But that wasn't worth that. If he had, again, as I said, just droned up, he would have been so far ahead. But instead goes for the kill. And now Bisu, I feel like Bisu's kind of back in it. Not like, I like Xiaoshui's position maybe slightly more still, though. As you can see, Bisu's still scouting very, very well. Sees that spire there. Okay, Dragoon range on the way. Yeah, this is not a game where you could flood Zealots for any sort of pressure. That's for sure. That's a good read right there. Evolution Chamber on the way. Hatchery on the way.
Yeah, there's only one.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for the new episode. I'm excited.
Where, like, no one...
I'm really looking forward to it.
It's like a rebuilding phase. No one can really attack each other, right? Bisu has, like, this...
Real reasons to wake up tomorrow.
Army
Invincible new
that,
season.
Like, kept him alive, but you can't really attack. And then you have from, you know, Xiaoshui, it's like, well, he can't really attack in a Psystorm cannon. So he's just got a drone. So we're in this kind of neutral-ish position right now where it's like, okay, how do you want to play from here? Now, I find this to be really smart from Bisu going into Dark Archon, because he did scout the Spire. Why would you be making a Spire? Probably for a Muta switch to kill off the High Templars, because you know that this is kind of the one thing keeping Bisu in the game. So he goes into Dark Archon. He's going into Maelstrom as well. So that all makes a lot of sense to me. But at the same time, we see from Xiaoshui, he's not making any Mutalisks. He's still droning really heavily. Look at that, 12 drones at a time right now. And getting into Lurker upgrades. While Dark Archons are not garbage against Lurkers or Hydras or really anything, like, they're garbage against Vultures, we'll give them that. You know, the Dark Archons are still going to be useful, but not nearly as much as he was hoping, basically. And he's not moving with it yet. He still doesn't know if there's going to be Mutalisks or not. DT kind of running away there. See this? That's kind of an interesting location. I feel like this is something to watch this bridge in a way. And of course he has his 4th base going up. The Dark Archon has enough for its first Maelstrom. Bisu adding Observatory.
Yeah, it's been fun. I think it's been overall pretty good. Obviously, with Invincible, everyone complains about the animation, but honestly, it doesn't honestly bother me that much. I mean, there may be like 2 scenes where I've been like, oh my god, what the hell?
About even in supply. That bodes very well for him and the potential in this game. Ooh, that was an excellent Maelstrom.
Yeah, I don't really mind it. I think
love
everyone's just
that.
so nitpicky
That
because
was
they
6
watch
hydras,
things that are like really
100%
popular
free.
and then they're
Well,
like,
just for mana,
oh my
obviously.
god, it's not this.
You know, Maelstrom plus the Psystorm.
Wait.
Maelstrom doesn't actually last that long, so it pairs
Oh my
really
God,
well
Dust? I
with
think
Psystorm, because
it's
if you don't, some of
Dust.
those will get away. So I think that that was
Wait.
super high usage for the Dark Archon. That was awesome to see. Hope to see more of those as well. It looks like a big lurker defense is going to be coming out here for Xiaoshui. His drone count is really phenomenal at this point. This is a tough one for Bisu. It's definitely been a weird game. He's done the things he's needed to do. Xiaoshui kind of played into him a little bit. He's got an army that can roam. He can't attack. That's an important thing to mention, is when you have an army that looks like this as Protoss, well, obviously there are positions that could be attacked, but this is much more of a roaming army where you can gain value because you never take a full fight. So, like, you pick off things on the edges that you might see. Like, he can walk down here, and he could kill all this. But as this stuff comes, you start to pull back. And if this stuff keeps chasing, you Psystorm it. And, of course, you can kite with the Dragoons as well. So this is more of a roaming army right now. I think Bisu will very likely try to take a 4th base off of this, because I think he'll be able to see very clearly that sitting here on the type of economy he has, there's no way for him to make an army that's going to win this game. So going up to a 4th base, though, and roaming is like a very smart play. Okay, another great Maelstrom. Gets 7 Hydras this time. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Okay, he did actually send a probe to this location, so you can see that Bisu is thinking about that, which, again, no big surprise at all. Hive on the way here for Xiaoshui. There it is. Gonna clear this area, send another probe over. Yeah, this is really the key to victory, is Bisu taking this and just kind of grinding Xiaoshui out. But Xiaoshui, I think, is playing this perfectly. The fact that he has this nice lurker defense, and then he's like, okay, another base and Hive. And from there, you go like Adrenal, and I would say you definitely get to Filer Tech as well, and it becomes such a problem for Bisu. Might turn into some sort of like multitasking war where Bisu's trying to storm drop bases or something. I'm not actually entirely sure, because he's just like a bit behind. I think Bisu probably more used to being ahead at this type of spot, but not going to be the case right now. 4th base, some cannons coming up. Xiaoshui zoning reasonably well.
Okay.
Lots and lots
It
of
is done.
things being pumped. Lots and lots and lots of them. Adrenal on the way. The triple Evo is going. Love to see it. It's going to be +2 range and 1/1 on melee and carapace. The Dark Archon still saving up some more energy.
Okay, Cameron, you need to fuck off today.
I love that the Dark Archon is still doing its thing. Like, he's going to get a 3rd Maelstrom. You don't normally see them last that long. Kind of a funny game, though. Both players sitting back, kind of building.
It really
up at
is
this point.
shitting
2
itself
upgrades
today.
for Bisu, actually. I
I'll
had
take
not
pictures.
noticed that. That's really great upgrades.
Okay.
Fantastic
Have a go.
upgrades. Some good.
Goodbye.
Nice storm defense here with those
Goodbye.
cannons. So Bisu
I'm gonna
will
go
get his
chill
storm
out.
base up and mining.
Peace.
That's before we have